we got cut off, and I'm not sure when you last heard me. I had asked you whether or not you were an enthusiastic supporter of the People's Party of Canada, and you suggested it wasn't necessarily enthusiastic. I had then pulled up the letter that you'd sent to the Senate, in which you say, and hopefully you can see it, that you're a founding member and you enthusiastically supported the party through my social media, public speaking, and attending events held by Maxime Bernier, as well as personal friends Mark Friesen and Randy Hilliard. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
And so I take it you agree with me that you were an enthusiastic supporter, at least to the extent you wrote that in the letter to the Senate.
Correct. I misinterpreted the question. I thought you maybe perhaps meant at the current time. I haven't been really involved in any party politics since around this time, and as pertains to the letter, enthusiastically, I guess I was referring to throughout the previous federal election that had just transpired in the fall.
And on your, and you mentioned earlier that you are a podcaster. The commission also understands that these podcasts are often videotaped as well, and the video is streamed. Is that fair?
That's correct.
So it's not just an audio format when you talk about a podcast.
No, it's both. I usually extrapolate the audio and then upload it after to several streaming platforms for typical, more typical podcasting consumption.
And on your podcasts, I take it would you agree that you're an outspoken about your criticism of the federal government?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're also outspoken about your criticism of the RCMP?
Yes.
And you were, as a general matter, opposed to the COVID-19 public health mandates that were imposed by the federal government?
In general, yes.
And with respect to the RCMP, as I understand it, you've been critical of how they handled the mass casualty event in Portapique, Nova Scotia in 2020. Is that fair?
Yes, sir. Several days after that event had taken place, I reached out to some people.
How is this related at all?
I knew in the area and tried to get a sense of, before I had just, started speaking haphazardly without really having any, as much information as I could. And then I released a video on YouTube, which garnered roughly anywhere between 500,000 to 1 million views across various platforms in the following week.
I'm now going to ask you some questions about Diagolon. Again, referring back to the letter you sent to the Senate, you explained to them that Diagolon is a fictional country. Is that at least that's how its origin? Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Right. And from the material the commission's reviewed, Diagolon, the origin of it was something you drew on your phone when you drew a line over the continent of North America from the southeast to the northwest of the continent. Am I describing that correctly?
Yes. So the concept was born out of a sort of a long kind of stream of consciousness. I do a lot of analytical commentary on current events, politics, these kinds of things. At the time, I believe it was January 2021, I had observed, as many others had, the Midwestern United States, Texas, Florida, North, South Dakota,
Yo,
so on,
Cédric.
Alberta, Saskatchewan, Alaska.
What's up, man? Tout va bien, merci. Ça va bien, merci. Vous, toi, mon ami, nous voyons le gouvernement fait les questions pour voir s'ils ont fait, si Justin Trudeau a fait une erreur de dire que c'est une émergence qui n'était pas utilisée. Il y avait seulement 2 fois qu'il a été utilisé. La Première Guerre mondiale, la Seconde Guerre mondiale et 1970, il y avait des terroristes au Québec qui ont tué les membres du gouvernement. J'ai dit tout ça. Que nous voyons. C'est une questionnaire du gouvernement dire si c'était bien toutes les
Yes, it came
mesures
out of my
du
imagination.
policier
Yeah, yes.
qui ont fait les
And
choses
you talk
très
about,
mal
you mentioned there, I think you
contre
said
les
it began
citoyens
as a
à
bit of a
Ottawa
joke.
en février
But as
du
I understand it, that joke
2022
has now evolved into an
dû à
international community of your
la
podcast fans. Is that
discrimination
fair?
contre les gens qui
Yes,
n'avaient pas
it's
reçu
also
le
fairly
vaccin,
synonymous with
les injections
another things
du
that reference the
COVID-19.
so-called Plaid Army, which was me and several other guys were
Et
just
c'est très
having a conversation one day. We all had similar
divertissement
shirts on. Someone made a joke about, what
parce
is this, the
que
Plaid Army?
ce
So
gens
it was
au
kind of,
droit,
that
il
evolved
est un
into this. It's
comédien.
essentially the same thing. It's the same
Et
group of
le
people. It's
lawyer
just
au gauche, il fait
kind
les
of a branding
questions de
mechanism,
s'il vous plaît,
toy for,
qu'est-ce que tu veux dire
to unite
avec
community followers and so on.
cette
Right, and you
pays
specifically reference in your letter to the
faux
Senate
que
that
vous
it has
avez
created
créé,
an international community
diagonale
of your podcast
du
fans. Is that correct?
Yes, there are followers
Je pense qu'il a
in
inclus
fans in the United
Alberta et
States,
Florida
some in
et
Europe,
Texas, des choses comme ça.
Australia.
And as I understand from your letter, that this community engages in regional meet and greets, barbecues, and family gatherings.
Yes, correct. Sometime in the summer of 2021, I believe, we kind of hosted just people wanted to come out and have kind of a meet and greet with myself and some other guys. And we had, as you said, a barbecue, had some drinks, some guys were playing guitars and so on. I observed that there was a few dozen people that came from as far away as British Columbia, Ontario. We met in Saskatchewan, and it struck me as in this time of a lot of people feeling very isolated and depressed, a lot of them expressed to me how much this meant for them to feel as though they had some kind of connection and kinship with other people that felt the same way as they did about the future, and shared their fears and concerns and so on. And I just observed how much it seemed to help them and heal them and make them happy. So I began what I called a Find Your Friends campaign. So I used using my online presence and my Telegram channel and so on, set up kind of regional areas or chat channels to facilitate not everyone can come all the way to Saskatchewan from PEI, Newfoundland, or so on. So if there's people that are like-minded, that are in your area, that share these, that are a fan of my podcast and so on, and you'd like to meet each other and share in this kind of this kind of activity, then you could do so this way. I was just trying to create an avenue for them to pursue, and I encourage people to do that rather than sitting at home looking at their screens and being fed fear and what I believe is a lot of toxic messaging on the media and television and so on. And I thought it would be good for people to get out and have real face-to-face human interactions and relationships again. And I thought it would be beneficial to their mental health, and I saw nothing but good things coming from that. So I encourage people to do so.
Okay, and you mentioned a first or an initial barbecue in either the summer 2020, 2021. After that, have you attended personally any of these other meet and greets that you encourage people to participate in?
There was one other one in Saskatchewan that I was present. There was another party sort of barbecue in Ontario in perhaps April of this year, and there was another gathering outside the city of Ottawa during the convoy period of time in February.
And are there other former Canadian Forces members in the Diagolon community?
Yes, there are. I've often incorporated a lot of my commentary, my unique, I suppose you could say, kind of lived experiences through the military, how I deal with my the inherent trauma and so on that comes with that. It has gathered it has attracted a fair amount of other veterans and military personnel because they resonate with the things that I'm saying. I'm speaking to something that they can understand or identify with. So there is a fair number. I couldn't answer a number specifically, but a sizable portion of the community, especially early on, were other guys that knew me from work or so on, that kind of spread through the areas because I'm an outspoken veteran and so on.
Do members of the Diagolon community ever refer to themselves as bigots?
Yes, they do. This was my doing to try and kind of take power out of the word, as it was being used as a slur, as a slanderous kind of defamatory method towards people like me and my followers and fans and so on. So we just kind of adopted as a tongue-in-cheek kind of defiant way of shrugging it off, is because it doesn't bother us that these people are. I show that it doesn't bother me, it shouldn't bother them, and they shouldn't care what these people think. They shouldn't allow them to attack them in this way and get under their skin and make them feel bad just because they are who they are and they like what they like.
So you and your followers were being called bigots. It didn't bother you, and so as a way to show it didn't bother you, you embraced it and identify yourself now as bigots.
In a tongue-in-cheek kind of sarcastic tone, yes.
And is that sort of tongue-in-cheek sarcastic tone consistent with the sort of comedy that you perform on your podcast?
I would say that yes, I'm a fairly sarcastic person, yes.
And you already mentioned the Diagolon symbol or flag, and I'm going to pull it up just to confirm everyone can see what we're talking about. If we can pull up COM 906.
Oh my God, he's actually going to do it. Come on.
And again, Mr. McKenzie, at any time, if you can't see anything that I put up on the screen, just let me know. So is that you in this photograph that's on the screen?
Yes, it is. This was at one of the gatherings, I believe, outside of Ottawa sometime in February. I believe this is a still image from a video that was taken. I was standing on top of the table addressing the people that had arrived and attended, and was just simply thanking them for showing up and encouraging them to keep taking care of each other and hope they have a good time and so on.
And fair to say that the flag in the background, that's a Diagolon flag?
Yes.
And the commission understands that on February 15th, 2022, you said in a video that you could not wait until that flag is seen as is described as a hate symbol. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir. Again, I was being kind of tongue-in-cheek in a way, because the people that I believe are deciding what is and what is not as a hate symbol are incredibly disingenuous and kind of smear merchants. It would have been kind of a gotcha trick over that.
It's satire, you stupid fucks. It's satire.
Displayed as a hate symbol, but more of a achievement that kind of lured them in more to focus on myself.
And do you see, and I take it then that this is another sort of part of your comedy, wanting this to be called a hate symbol?
Yes, it's because it's, again, no one in my community would be
satire,
surprised to hear me saying these things, and it certainly isn't a symbol of hatred, but we find it amusing
C'est satire.
that our, I guess, enemies, if you could say, do believe this and believe these absurd claims about us, and it's just kind of an inside joke at this point.
You sell Diagolon merchandise, is that right?
I personally, I have a shop that has just recently gone online in the past 2 or 3 months. Previously, other friends of mine offered, like the flags, for example. Another man was selling patches. He was making it cost just to help promote community visibility and give people something to. I thought it'd be nice for some people to have something to hold in their hand and kind of have them bring them some attachment and just something for them to enjoy and display.
So the people who were selling the merchandise, they were friends of yours?
Yes.
They sold it with your approval?
Yes, they did.
And they are also part of the Diagolon community?
They would likely identify as fans of mine, and yes. However, as you can probably observe, it's not a particularly complicated thing to reproduce. So it's not a copyrighted symbol by any means. There's no real official ownership to it as of yet. So people would just approach me of their own voluntary intention and ask, like, hey, do you mind if I make this or make that and sell this, for whatever? And I would say, go ahead. If it gives you something to do, if you can make a few dollars from it and it helps you, then by all means.
Right. It's not a nuanced symbol, is it, in terms of its design?
No, it's essentially just a black square, and I use my finger on my phone to do this about 3 times with a white paint marker selection. As you can see, it's kind of an irregular. It's not perfectly straight lines; they're kind of irregular. And it is literally just my finger doing this a couple of times. And I sent that image file off to be produced from there.
So if someone wanted to show themselves as someone who supported your podcast or supported the Diagolon community, it'd be fairly easy for them to replicate the Diagolon flag. Is that fair?
I would assume so. Yes, it's not difficult to. It looks fairly simple.
So, Mr. McKenzie, I think what I'm about to say will not come as a surprise to you, but in fairness, I want to ask you some questions about it.
Of course.
The RCMP has described you in documents the Commission has received. Sorry, let me back. The RCMP has described Diagolon, let me be specific, has described Diagolon as a militia-like network with members that are armed and preparing for violence. The RCMP has also described Diagolon as having supporters that express sentiments akin to accelerationism, viewing a coming collapse or civil war as necessary to right the course of the country. In your letter to the Senate, you denied those sorts of allegations. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
And in the letter to the Senate, you said that you are under RCMP scrutiny because of the criticisms that you've made about the RCMP. And as I understand reading your letter, but please correct me if I'm wrong, I understand you to be saying that the RCMP sort of is looking at you closely because of the way you criticize them, and that's why they're saying these sorts of things about you.
That is my personal belief. Yes, there is a. Many of the followers and fans and so on are
very
you could say
purple.
conservative Canadians. There is an aspect of firearms sporting recreational
I'm so
culture
lucky.
stuff, especially in Western Canada. But there's certainly not anything resembling a militia or anything to this extent.
What's up, man? Yo, yeah.
Moving away from what the RCMP says
Dude,
about Diagolon,
I got some really purple shit, bro.
I appreciate
It's
you
fucking
wouldn't
insane,
have
dude.
been able to watch the testimony, but we had
strain is called-
Superintendent
I'm
Patrick
not gonna say
Morris,
it.
who is the
I'm already fucking
head
cops
of the
calling my
OPP's
ass on me
Intelligence
already.
Bureau testify. He's not a member of the RCMP, and he testified at the inquiry that Diagolon is an extremist entity that holds extremist views. I assume you also disagree with that statement.
Yes, sir. It's my again belief and assertion that much of this this narrative is coming from certain actors and members of the media. The Canadian Anti-Hate Network and so on has astroturfed and kind of laid the foundation of this idea. They've been certainly paid me a lot of attention over the past few years, and through personal disclosure documents of mine, through various legal proceedings, it's been revealed that the police are actually relying upon articles, if you can call them that, by the Canadian Anti-Hate Network as open source intelligence. So they're relying upon what these people are saying about me as taking it at face value.
But to be fair, Mr. McKenzie, you don't know what the RCMP or the OPP are relying on in their entirety when they make these assessments, do you?
Correct.
I was going to ask you about two terms, one of which was the Plaid Army, but thank you, you've already explained that, so we can save that question. The next term that we've seen a reference to is a term that you've used sometimes called the beach. And it is our understanding, but again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that sometimes when you
I
reference
really should
the
just
beach,
take a
you're
photo.
referencing
I could do that.
D-Day in World War II.
I could take a photo of it and fucking upload it. But I'm sure.
Yes, it comes from a line in a movie I enjoy, Saving Private Ryan. There's a line in that film right before the landing craft descend upon Omaha Beach, I believe, where Tom Hanks' character says, "I'll see you on the beach," as kind of a reassuring.
So this guy in an
I
interview,
will be
he's a
there with
comedian?
you kind of sentiment. So I say this is again kind of, and
the guy on the left is a lawyer.
I've explained it several times, but that's just kind of a callback to that film and expressing
Lawyers
sentiment
interrogating
that,
him about all
whatever
his comedy
transpiring
bits.
in the
That's
future,
why we're like
I will
everyone's
be
laughing in
there
chat.
to
Everyone's
support
like,
you, and you guys can support each other and so on. It's just a message of encouragement, I suppose.
that's a lawyer from the
You attended
government.
the protests in Ottawa in January and February 2022,
Yes, sir.
and you attended them with other members of the Diagolon community?
He made this fake
When did you arrive?
country called Diagolon. It's like Pretoria with its own like laws, and he
I
had
can't
people like
be certain of the exact
meme
date, but
join it, and he made like a
perhaps 2 days before the main body of the trucks arrived. I believe it was a Friday evening they showed up. So maybe perhaps that Thursday or Wednesday.
So you knew the convoy was coming to Ottawa, and that's why you showed up?
Yes, I did. I observed it was very clear to me by monitoring social media and so on as part of what I do to comment on social, current events and, analyze political commentary, that kind of thing, that this was going to be a very significant event. It was very clear to me this was not going to be a in and out, weekend protest type of thing. There was videos of long, very long convoys of trucks and vehicles. They were coming in from multiple directions. There were open group chats or voice chats and stuff where these people were communicating back and forth. You could listen in on it. It was clear it was going to be a pretty big deal. So again, this was going to be something I would be talking about and would have a lot of my attention anyway. So I decided why not go and get a close look at it as it transpired rather than watch it from, relying on other sources from home to understand what was happening.
Right, and it attracted your attention because the stated purpose of the truckers coming to Ottawa was to end the federal COVID-19 mandates, and that's a political view you also held, right?
That seemed to be one of their primary motivations, yes. There was a lot of that was one of the main factors. There was a lot of other discontent in various groups. It wasn't a monolithic, that was the only objective for people. Again, there was not really any hierarchy or any real organization that I could observe. It very much seemed like just a grassroots kind of movement of discontent with the federal government, with things that have been transpiring. The cost of living is rising, social division, just a lot of the rhetoric officials and stuff are using on television. A lot of people were very unhappy and having a difficult time over the past couple of years, and it basically it was. I would describe it as, if I could use a metaphor, the pot had just simply boiled over. And many people had decided that this was going to be the time that they were going to show up and exercise their right to peacefully demonstrate their discontent and their displeasure with the performance of the federal government.
And when you arrived in Ottawa, you met people there who were members of the Diagolon community?
Yes, sir. Yes.
And presumably, if you met someone who hadn't heard of you or hadn't heard of Diagolon, you would tell them about it, you'd tell them about your podcast and encourage them to listen and support?
Yes, if someone was unfamiliar or they asked a question, I would just simply say, "Hi, I'm a social media guy. I'm online. I have a podcast. It's political commentary, comedy, and some analysis." And
this guy on the right's kind of like the Canadian Alex Jones a little bit.
That someone had made up for me, I would hand them out to people and say, "Hey, this is the website if you'd like to check it out," and so on.
At a very much smaller scale.
Have a nice day, kind of thing.
And those business cards, they would have had the Diagolon logo on them?
He's more like a Russell Brand, the guy on the right, kind of. Canadian Russell Brand, conservative. Dry.
Did those, sorry, it might have cut out.
Passive aggressive.
Did business cards have the Diagolon logo on them?
Sarcastic English.
Yes, they did. They have it on one side, and then one of my other artistic logos on the other side was just simply the website on one side, and then I think it says "Find the others" or "Find your friends" on the other.
And you suggested this is something you do if someone came up to you, but is it fair to say, Mr. McKenzie, you're in the media business and you want to promote your media, so you would also actively hand out those cards?
Yes, sir. If someone asks or they're interested or they express a desire to learn like what it is I'm doing, it's just easier to just give them this. It directs them to the website. All my social media links and so on are there. There's a short video, and they can go from there. If they like what they see, I presume they'll continue. If not, then so be it.
Did you attend at any point in the protest with a person named Alex Vriend or Vrend? Apologies if I'm mispronouncing the name.
Yes, sir.
And who is Alex Vriend?
He is someone I met online through the evolution of my podcast, I suppose. I met Alex in person in the summer of 2021, I believe. We spent some time together in Saskatchewan as he was traveling around the country, meeting people, and as I understood, he was just kind of in between, jobs in life, and wasn't really sure what he was just taking the opportunity He bought a van and a dog and just kind of went on the classic Canadian road trip around the country and was meeting up with other people in the community that expressed a desire to meet them and hang out. And he'd become kind of more of a prominent person because of his, he also is a content creator. He makes a lot of memes and jokes and comedic things like this. And so people were interested to meet him.
And his content, he posts under the name Ferryman's Toll, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And we understand, both from your letter to the Senate and some videos that your council has submitted, that when you were in Ottawa, you encouraged peaceful protesting. Is that fair?
Yes, sir. I was concerned, especially because of the rhetoric and verbiage coming out of, again, the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, which was being parroted, starting to be picked up by other more credible news outlets and so on, that I was concerned that if something should happen outside my control or I can't really see the future, but I wanted to state very clearly what my intentions were and what I expected of people if they were going to be representing myself or brandishing any of my. I encourage them not to, because I wanted this to be about Canada. This is about the country. Bring a Canadian flag. This isn't about me. This isn't about. I'm not trying to sell anything. This is more important. The bigger idea is more important. But if you do, happen to have, something, please conduct yourself, appropriately, because your actions and decisions and things you say and you do will reflect upon me and the greater community and so on. So
just
I wanted to have that on the record before, just in case.
So just to stop there. So you wanted someone who was wearing a Diagolon symbol to act accordingly. It's not accordingly, but act as appropriately and peacefully. At this point in time, were you aware that either the RCMP or other police agencies would be maybe monitoring what you do or what your supporters do?
Yes, sir.
So when you're giving that direction, you're aware that the authorities are watching.
I was never explicitly given any notice, or no one had talked to me or spoken to anyone. It was pretty clear, just upon general observations, my own instincts, that we were probably on the radar somewhere. So I didn't want anything to be misconstrued. I was trying to be very clear about my intentions, and jokes aside, this is about protesting the government's performance and people exercising their rights to do so. I didn't want this to be misconstrued in any way. We were simply there to protest peacefully. I said things like, if there's a speed limit on walking for some reason, then you will walk slower than that. Don't even litter, don't spit, don't even throw a snowball. Don't give anyone any excuse to point at you and say that, look what you've done, look what you've incited or created or fomented and so on, because that would have undermined the entire purpose of everything everyone was trying to achieve.
So, Mr. McKenzie, I'm now going to read you one by one a list of names, and I may have some follow-up questions, but all I want to know right now is for each name whether or not you communicated with this individual while you were in, either before you arrived in Ottawa or while you were in Ottawa.
That looks nice.
Okay, you understand? Tamara Leach.
Actually, that looks pretty bad. I'm gonna put it behind the chat or something.
First spoke to Tamara Leach potentially in July of this year, August.
Chris Barber.
Not before. No.
James Bowder.
No.
Bridget Belton.
No.
Benjamin Dichter.
I'm aware of who Mr. Dichter is. I personally have not had any interaction with him.
Wow, yeah, thanks, buddy.
I was aware that he was a...
Thanks, man. It was in the Sun, too, so, like,
kind of alleged, manager
the best would be if I took it... I already did everything.
I'm not
going to take another photo. That's what it looks like.
I don't mean to interrupt, and it's just, I want to make sure we get
dude, it's
through
called
it in
ayahuasca.
time, I just want to know right now whether you communicated with these
Nice.
people. Your council will have an opportunity if there's other things that you want to bring up. Did you ever communicate either before or while you were in Ottawa with a Tom Marazzo?
Yes, I spoke to Mr. Marazzo once, possibly twice over the phone. Once as I was driving back from Ottawa
it's insane,
to the
bro.
Maritimes to drop off
Like,
some
it's
people that
insane.
accompanied me. They could only stay for a couple of days
damn,
with their families
bro.
and kids and so on. So I spoke to him
Look at
for
that.
a couple of hours. We talked
Like,
about,
sometimes some of these
shared
spots are
experiences in
insane. Let me
North
show you.
America and so on.
Let me show you.
He indicated to me that he was in some capacity nearby.
Wow.
something resembling people that were making decisions, I guess. And basically just kind of connected in that, like, someone suggested we should meet each other, and I expressed to him that if there was anything that I could do to help assist, get a message out or something, that I was willing to do that. No one ever asked me to. And likewise, I told him if I saw or was made aware of anything that I felt that would be relevant that they should know about, that I would inform him and so on. But I think that was the extent of our interaction. I didn't have any real meaningful interaction with Mr. Marazzo, I think, until around April, when there was a benefit.
All the trichomes are white, or all the, not the
In Ottawa,
trichomes,
how many times did you
the,
speak with Mr. Marazzo?
At least
Yeah, the
once,
trichomes.
possibly twice.
And when was
All
the
white.
first time you spoke with Mr. Marazzo?
and it's purple.
It would have
Definitely a
been
hybrid.
sometime during the first
It looks a
I
lot
believe,
purple.
of when the trucks arrived. I was in the process. I remember I was driving my truck and it was over the headset. The other guys were sleeping in the truck while we were talking. So somewhere in between Quebec and New Brunswick, I couldn't say.
So sometime before January 28th?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure the dates of when the trucks arrived and when they left.
But sorry, and there's evidence of when the trucks arrived, but it was some point before the trucks arrived. Is that correct?
No, it was after.
It was after. How long after?
I would say roughly a week.
Roughly a week.
7 to 5 to 8 days, perhaps.
Fair enough. When you were in Ottawa, did you communicate directly with any Ottawa police or OPP?
Not to my knowledge. I did have some friendly conversations on the street, just, hi, how are you, how's it going, cold out, that kind of thing, but nothing significant.
Did you receive from Did you receive from any sources information about police operations or police enforcement plans while you were in Ottawa?
Yes. There was a user that contacted me, I believe on Telegram, I would say, again, summer of 2021, who self-identified himself as a RCMP member. Just kind of friendly, expressed he enjoyed the podcast and liked what I was saying and so on. So there was a loose relationship with whoever this person was. And during that time in Ottawa, they had reached out to me to inform me of, to say that the POU, which I had to find, if that was, I didn't understand the nomenclature. I've never been a police officer. I understood it to be the public order unit, essentially the riot police, were being activated to be sent to Ottawa. And further to that, after the Emergency Act had been invoked, this person had sent me, there were screenshots, I guess, of either a WhatsApp group chat or Telegram, I'm not sure, of various RCMP officers engaging in taking selfies of drinking and eating and so on, and celebrating the violence that they were bringing upon the people downtown, and saying, wait until they hear our jackboots and this kinds of thing. He sent that to me, and I said, well, is this real? And they assured me, yes, it looked very real. And I said, I will publish this. And they said, that's why we sent it to you. So I did. I released that on Telegram, and that went out. Since then, that person has deleted their account sometime in March, and I haven't been in contact with them since.
Okay. Do you remember their name on Telegram?
The user
Yo, what
handle
about
was
you,
GK or PK
or woman?
or something. It was 2 initials and a phone number. I think
Welcome,
it was
welcome
Ontario
again.
area code,
How are you?
Good
to see you.
Other than that user, did
Bro,
anyone
lift your
else
face.
provide you with information about police operations or enforcement plans?
I wouldn't say pro.
We could pull up OPS.
If you do it enough,
OPP.
if you just do it enough times, it's just kind of like, you can't really argue with it. Like, even if I don't have, my results were okay. I'm happy with them, but I mean, it could be bigger. I could be bigger and stronger. My numbers could be higher. My reps could be higher. My frequency could be better and higher.
And then, if we could go to page 5, please.
But yeah, 130 is pretty good.
Keeps, scroll down more. So this
I'm
is
running
an OPP
books.
intelligence brief, Mr. McKenzie.
I'm
You may
nice.
have
I'm
seen
shitting
it
on
with
this
respect to
podcast
some of the
a tiny bit.
disclosure we provided, but I assume you wouldn't have seen the document before today.
Hell yeah,
I'm gonna ask
man.
you,
If you're a man.
you look at item 2,
Some running and bought some books.
Actually,
Nice.
for
Hell
context,
yeah.
look at item 1.
Takes time.
It
Yeah,
talks about
buddy.
a video posted to, the name is redacted, but it says the name of the Instagram
Consistency.
account is Raging Dissident. So that
Yeah.
would be you, Mr. McKenzie,
Yes, sir.
as far as you know. And then item 2, again, talks about a video posted to the Raging Dissident account in which the poster shares information credited to police sources that disclose enforcement plans, and then it provides a bit of a description. Is that the information that the user on Telegram provided you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On the same page, Dave, on the same page, if you look at item 3, it talks about on February 8th,
That's pretty good.
Posted
That's pretty
2
good. Look
videos
at that.
to his Telegram channel, Rage Board. Is that your Telegram channel?
That was one of the previous names of it, yes.
Okay. And if you look there, there's a line break, and then it says, again, name redacted, says there's supposed to be some negotiation.
Nice. Congrats on starting lifting and running shit.
But he hasn't heard
Yeah,
how
books
it
are so
went
important
from
too. I got an
organizers
entire
yet.
bookshelf right behind right
Yeah,
here.
he
Right
goes
behind
on
the
to
camera.
state. Do you see that?
No, sir.
Sorry, I'm talking a little quickly also. Yeah,
Sorry.
Show you a
and
book I
take your
bought
time. I
recently.
want to make sure that you're
Has
reading
like
this,
Wonders of the World and
before I
shit.
ask you questions. So this suggests that you were aware that there might be negotiations with a government delegate, but you hadn't heard from the organizers yet. Do you know what that's a reference to?
I can't recall. I remember being under the impression that there was some form of negotiations taking place between some sort of leadership apparatus for the convoy and the perhaps city of Ottawa, RCMP, OPP, not sure, the police and the convoy people.
Fair enough. How did you learn that information?
That is a good question. I think it may have just been kind of common knowledge that there was something like that was taking place. More of a rumor, perhaps. As it goes on, the public order unit. That was given to me specifically by this user on Telegram from the RCMP. Allegedly they were.
Right, and you're talking then about the part that's in bold after that, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you aware that Tom Marazzo met with city manager Steve Kanellakis on February 8th, 2022?
No, sir.
Did Mr. Marazzo ever talk to you about meeting with Mr. Kanellakis or meeting with any government officials in any of the conversations you had?
No, he did not.
Have you ever spoken with Keith Wilson or Eva Chipiak?
I might do a book stream sometime. And just go through every page because that has like
can take that
it has
down.
like
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
in ancient Sumerian in Iraq.
Mr.
Right?
McKenzie, I think you
It has
agree with me. It's fair to say
pyramids.
that
It
you were
has.
critical
There's
of
so
the
much
federal
stuff I don't
government's
know, like
response to the protests in Ottawa. and
from like
Coutts. Is that
Turkey
correct?
to India. I don't know like stuff in like
Yes, sir.
Pakistan, India, and like
Initially,
Kailasa Temple
I had
and shit.
No issue. Actually, I thought I was able
Learning
to
all
very
that shit,
appropriately.
man.
There was a
The
strong
temples
police
in
presence, but
stone temples
also
in
there was
Ethiopia.
A large number of people, so inherently there is a danger that there's going to be, something can happen. So it made sense. I didn't take any issue with anything that I had seen until they started becoming a little more aggressive here and there. There was an incident where some fuel cans were stolen or seized or what have you. But it wasn't really until the EMA was invoked that they became extremely aggressive and violent, and that was what I took the most issue with.
Did you ever say that the RCMP was intentionally cutting truckers off from essential supplies in Ottawa and Coutts?
Yes.
That is what
Yes.
I have been hearing from people. Yes.
And did you then repeat that on your podcast?
I may have. Yes.
Did you ever say that the RCMP made attempt to disrupt cell phone towers to ensure truckers cannot communicate?
That again was another scenario. There were people having a lot of issues with their cell phones. That may or may not have been the conduct of some kind of interference. It could have just been too many cell phones on the towers. I'm not sure, but that again was another kind of running suspicion and theory at the time.
Fair enough. My question right now is if you recall, if that's something you said on your podcast, that was something that was being said.
I may have. Yeah.
And did you ever say on your podcast Sorry, let me back up. Did you ever distribute or know of anyone distributing contact information about the members of the Ottawa Police Service?
Not to my knowledge, no.
We can pull up ssm.nsc.can.00001575
Oops, sorry.
underscore
Sorry about that.
REL.0001. Apologies for all those
I'm
digits,
so
Mr.
sick.
McKenzie. Scroll up to the top.
I've been
please, just
recovering
I
from a
can,
cold. Sorry
give
for the
the
cough.
Some context. So, Mr. McKenzie, this is a CSIS analytical brief dated February 21st, 2022. And if we could go to page 3 of the brief, please. And scroll down a bit further, please. Scroll down a little bit further, please. So this part of the brief says that since the initial weekend, key figures within Diagolon have made appeals for participation in and documentation of the demonstrations. Further, Vreend has been collecting donations to allow others to travel to participate in demonstration in Coutts, Alberta, or Ottawa, Ontario. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any knowledge about whether or not Mr. Vreend was collecting donations to allow people to participate in both Coutts and Ottawa?
I recall he was collecting some funds for someone. I don't think it was just in general open to whoever wanted them. I think there was one or two people potentially from Western Canada that expressed a desire to come down to Ottawa if they couldn't afford it. So I think that's what was going on.
And then if we could scroll up in this document to the, the next page up. Sorry, keep scrolling up. Stop there. So this, again, this is a CSIS, a document, but it has a box here that says, in Jeremy McKenzie's own words, the first one says, this is the good guys versus the bad guys. The showdown has finally fucking begun, and it has begun in Canada. You could go be a part of the story now. Is that something you've said?
It sounds like something I said, yes.
And is that something you've said with respect to the protests in either Ottawa or Coutts?
Probably, I believe so, yes.
And then the next quote is, this is the beach, get yourself out there. Is that something you said with respect to the protests in either Ottawa or Coutts?
Probably, yes.
Okay. And in this case, when you're using the beach, are you referring to the analogy we spoke about with D-Day?
I was referring to the idea that this, again, a lot of people had felt very powerless and disenfranchised, upset, depressed, and this was an opportunity for them to actually go and participate and have their voices be heard and join these demonstrations. And rather than sitting at home complaining and whining about it on the couch, they could, if you can, why not? Why not go and be involved?
And I've heard you say that, Mr. McKenzie. I'm asking you if in this case, when you're using the word beach, it's using in the same context when you're alluding to D-Day. And the reason I'm asking you this is that the police and the government view your group as potentially as extremist, and so this is the sort of thing that would grab their interest. So when you're talking about beach, you're talking about D-Day.
No, they don't.
I was trying to
What a fucking
speak
idiot.
directly to my audience that are familiar with my verbiage, my kind of terminology and things I reference, in the way that they would understand that this is something important that we should you can do together. It's not. I certainly didn't mean it in any kind of violent context or D-Day invasion type scenario. I just simply meant it as an encouraging kind of call to the community at large that hey, if this is something you could be involved in, rather than just again sitting at home by yourself.
So, Mr. Clerk, you can take that document down. Thank you. I now have some questions for you, Mr. McKenzie, about the protests in Coutts. Just first, simple yes or no, did you ever travel to Coutts personally?
No.
Did you know anyone who was protesting in Coutts in February 2022?
I was aware that Mr. Chris Lysak was there. and I am loosely acquainted with Mr. Adam Skelly, who had made a couple of trips there to deliver steaks and brisket and so on. There's a couple of comedians in the Edmonton and Calgary area that I know that travel down to put on some a performance, I think, and just kind of meet and greet and leave, and that was about it.
What were the names of the two comedians?
It was Brendan Black here and Sam Walker, or maybe I'm not sure if Sam attended, but Brendan for sure. And there was also Brett Forte, who I don't know personally. I've never spoken to him. I was just made aware that they were there because they posted a video of them traveling there to say hi to everybody.
And so Chris Lysak, Mr. Adam Skelly, Brendan and Sam, are they members of the Diagolon community?
No. They may identify as fans. Mr. Lysak would. Brendan probably would. Sam potentially. Mr. Forte I've never met or spoken to.
If you're a fan of Diagolon, you're part of the community, right?
Again, it's just kind of a self-identifying. You could say it's as simple as, as identifying as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan by putting a sticker on your truck. It's really that simple.
So the answer to my question is yes.
I suppose so, yes.
What a fucking idiot.
Were you communicating with the individuals you just identified while they were in Coots?
No.
How do you know Chris Lysak?
Mr. Lysak has been a longtime fan of the podcast. I met him personally in Saskatchewan in the summer of 2021, I believe, the first meet and greet get-together I mentioned, and a subsequent one later in the year, perhaps September. There was a few dozen people. We, had a beer, ate a steak, with all these people, took a photograph together at one of them, and that's pretty much it.
Did you talk to him when you were at either of those two meet and greets?
Yes, I talked to dozens of people, yeah. Chris was one of them.
And I take it the topic of conversation at these meet and greets include the similar topics that you discussed on your podcast. Is that fair?
I generally don't like to engage in that. I find it kind of exhausting when I try to just keep it kind of a social, meet and greet, casual kind of social event. I don't really try to talk politics or anything like that.
But presumably your fans, when they meet you in person, they want to talk to you about what they hear you talking about in your podcast. That's fair, isn't it?
Sometimes, yes.
Can we pull up COM 50907? So, Mr. McKenzie, can you please identify the people in this photo?
Yeah, that's the photo I just mentioned. I posted it to my Instagram page. It's myself on my left and Mr. Lysak on the right.
And was this at the first event in Saskatchewan?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And just to be clear, Mr. McKenzie, other than that event in Saskatchewan and then the other event in September 2021, is there any other times you met with Mr. Lysak?
No.
Did you communicate with him at any time other than at those events?
Mr. Lysak may have been in some larger online group chats where there's 30, 40 other people involved. Never, to my knowledge, never directly one-on-one. He has called me twice, I think, since he's been incarcerated, just simply to say hi, and I just try to offer some encouragement to him and hope that he's doing well, etc.
So you spoke to him after his arrest in Coots?
Yes, sometime this summer.
Okay. And I asked you generally about the people you identified who you knew in Coots, but with respect to Mr. Lysak specifically, did you understand him to be a fan of your podcast?
Yes.
And you understood him to be a member of the Diagolon community?
Yes.
Are you aware that Mr. Lysak, or at least there's been reports that Mr. Lysak had a Diagolon flag flying outside the house in which he lived with his father?
I have heard that, yes.
So we could pull up COM 917.
It's too much, man.
And so, have you ever read this article that's on the screen, Mr. McKenzie?
I may have. It's tough to recall.
It's an article in the Toronto Star, and you're quoted in it. Do you remember giving a quote to the Toronto Star with respect to an article they were writing about Mr. Lysak?
I think so. I've spoken to the Toronto Star several times, yes.
Okay. And if you could go down to page 3, just so I can show you, you'll see in the middle of the page it says, when reached by the Star this week, Mackenzie said in an email that he'd met Chris along with thousands of people by now through my podcast and travels around the country, which is, as you explained. So we can take that down. Mr. McKenzie, are you aware that on February 14th, the RCMP executed a search warrant in Coutts, Alberta, and arrested 13 people? And as a part of that arrest, they seized several weapons and body armor? Is that something you're aware of?
Yes, sir.
And how did you become aware of that?
I was made aware of it by once it hit the media either that evening or the following day.
And when did you become aware that Mr. Lysak was one of the people who was arrested?
It was right around the same time that word had spread around the community that he had been arrested as part of the 13 or whoever many other people were arrested.
And are you aware that Mr. Lysak was charged with conspiracy to murder, uttering threats, and possession of a weapon?
What?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Conspiracy to murder?
After the arrest, as the commission understands it, you posted a video in Ottawa where you talked about the people who'd gotten arrested in Coutts. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir. I think so.
What I'll do is I'll pull it up. I'm not going to play it for you because of our time, but if you can identify it as a video that you participated in, that would be helpful. COM 50911. Actually, might just play the first maybe 30 seconds or so.
Playing type if you're not, and if you just want to give a shit, please, in your thoughts, keep the voice. In Alberta, they got arrested. We haven't heard from them. We don't know what's going on. There's some rumors they're getting fucking charged with some heavy shit. I don't know what's going on.
Yo, dick.
I don't know. I know as much as you do, but I don't know.
Hey, buddy. Congrats. Don't make yourself a victim,
So
buddy.
is that a video you posted, Mr. McKenzie?
Don't be a victim
Yes,
of your
I
own
did a
success.
clip, from one of my podcast
Supersede it, man.
episodes, probably shortly after that had taken place. At the time, and still presently, I'm very skeptical of law enforcement, especially considering the political nature in which there appears to be a lot of interference going on in the country. I was concerned that from that aspect of what was happening out there. Again, I don't know anything other than what's been
Oh,
posted in
dang,
the
dude.
media
I'm sorry.
and what's been said, other than that they've been charged.
You okay?
With,
Hope
what
you're
they've been
okay, man.
charged with. Of course, if evidence does appear or is presented that proves that these allegations are in fact correct, obviously that is something I would denounce. I don't stand by that. As I've said, this is not something that is supported by myself. It would undermine the entire purpose of these
I hope so too, man.
protests. And until then, I hope they get a fair trial, and we'll see what happens.
And you're correct, Mr. McKenzie. The matter is before the courts.
It's
and
nice
so it
outside,
is
but
yet
it's
to
not,
be,
like, really nice.
Adjudicated in the appropriate setting.
That's why I'm going to do a workout stream
The
instead of, like,
media
go outside.
reports are that the people were arrested. There was concern by the police that some of them were intending to use the weapons to harm police officers or murder police officers. Again, that is going to be dealt with in another matter. But I assume if that was someone's intent, you would denounce it. Is that did I hear that correctly?
Absolutely, yes.
In the video, you can take it down. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. You mentioned the boys in Alberta when you're talking about the rest. Other than Mr. Lysak,
It did,
do you know
man, it
anyone
did.
else who got arrested in Alberta?
No, sir. No, sir.
I'm just to be
Yes.
clear. I'm going to read you the
It did,
names, and I
Dick.
just want you to say yes or no. Yes, I know them. No.
Yeah, I had full body flu pain,
Ursula Glenn
nervous
Allred?
system.
No, no,
Luke Burke,
no, no.
Christopher Dean Carbert or Carbert,
I think it was COVID because I felt my nervous system
Evan
lock up.
Banning-Colnut,
My whole nervous system log up, and
Johnson
I had to
Chi
flex
Chow
it out.
Law,
Otherwise, it felt like my body was gonna shrivel up into like a little ball. It was crazy. I had to flex
Jacqueline
everything.
Francis Martin,
Sick in the flu. You get this fucking
Ms.
feeling you gotta
Martin,
flex your
I
whole
did have a
body.
conversation with
And then the
maybe
sweats
in June or
came.
July. I think she was in one of these video chats and introduced herself and mentioned that she was.
Yeah, buddy. I'm sorry, dude. Just sleep it up, drink water.
and Mr.
Take it
McKenzie, just to
easy.
stop
Mars
you
is
there,
retrograde.
I'm
People
interested
are
in
fucking
people you
not
knew
happy.
as
At the
of,
time?
Full moon
as of
next
February
week.
14th, 2022.
Just take it easy, homie. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
Justin Lyle Martin,
Oh, that's not good,
no,
man.
no,
Jerry
you're at home.
Mitchell Troy Morin,
no, no,
Easton Stewart Oler,
no, no,
Anthony George Olenek,
no, no,
Joanne Lynn Person,
no, no,
Jenks Anthony Zaremba,
no, no.
Mr. Commissioner, I'm almost done. If I could have a few more minutes, please.
Okay.
Mr. McKenzie, I'm sure you are no doubt aware that the RCMP released photos of the weapons and body armor they seized. Why don't we pull up two photos
Oh, that's
first with
fine.
COM
Interesting, man.
915.
Only you know, dude, if it's unique or not. That's what I mean. Like, I don't like when people
And if we could just scroll
justify
out,
other
and
people's.
this is just to give you some
feeling
context,
orders.
Mr.
It's like,
McKenzie.
you're
This
really
is the
telling me.
larger photo showing the weapons and the ammunition and the vests that were seized. And then if we could pull up COM 916, and what I'm going to show you is a photo that's zooming in on the
Did
vest
you
that if you're
did
looking
you
at the photos to the
see
right,
those weapons? You see how much
expect you
those
know,
fucking shit was
what I'm
packing?
gonna
There's
show you
nobody
at this point,
fucking
Mr.
packing
McKenzie.
all that shit.
So
Obviously they exist in this
is a
country, but
zoom
no one's
in
gonna
of the photo we're looking at, and
like
that's one of the pieces
what?
of
You're all gonna
armor.
put your
That's a
fucking
ballistic vest, as I
rifle
understand it.
all together in one spot in one trailer? Like
It
why?
appears to be some kind of tactical vest. If it was ballistic, it would have to have some kind of.
Such an obvious false flag. Did you see the Did you see the fucking quality on those fucking rifles?
Right, fair enough.
Did you see that it was like just
You
full
see
specced out,
on there, there's two
polished
patches with
fucking
the diagonal
silver?
symbol,
Fuck
correct?
you, cops. Fucking liars.
It does appear that that is the case. However, I was made aware.
That was the first time I saw that photo. I had no opinion otherwise before seeing this photo.
After some scrutiny and taking a closer look at the photos, they don't appear to be.
Hey, let's all load up our
as I said,
fucking
in,
rifles, our fucking automatic rifles.
selling them at
Put them all together in one
thousands of
fucking
these,
crate.
Across,
Fucking
Canada,
idiots.
some to the United States, some to Australia. These ones, however, appear to be homemade or made by someone else. As of now,
This makes me so
I don't recall
angry, man.
anyone coming forward to say that they had produced these or where these came from. So I can't really speak to as their origins.
Right, but you agreed with me earlier, Mr. McKenzie, that any one of your fans or anyone who was in the Diagolon community who supported you could very easily made a patch that looks just like that. Isn't that right?
Yes, yes.
If we could pull up, and this will be the last document, Mr. Commissioner, pb.nsc.can.
Fuck this guy. This guy asked for one more question. Fuck you. That's two. You asked for one more question, motherfucking air. You're bringing two. Fuck you.
REL.0001.
Sorry, guys. I'll keep it chill. I'm gonna keep it chill. I'm not gonna. No more yelling. No more
So,
yelling into the mic.
Mr. McKenzie, again, this is a
Wanna be cool?
document. This one's from the
Wanna watch, enjoy?
RCMP division, and it's a form of report about the arrest that we've been talking about in Coutts, Alberta. And if we could scroll down to where it says current situation, it says in the second bullet point, a ballistic vest was seized during the search warrant at the residence in Coutts, which contained a patch reflective of the Diagolon flag. It is believed that this vest belongs to one of the accused, Christopher Lysak. Open source information has linked Lysak to redacted name. So, Mr. McKenzie, this isn't your report. I know you didn't produce it, but you would agree with me that from the RCMP's perspective, they believe that the vest with the Diagolon symbol was Mr. Lysak's, correct?
That does appear to be what they believe, yes.
Yes, wait a moment.
Sorry, your counsel had an objection, so.
Yes.
It's unfair to this witness to ask him to speculate what is in the RCMP's mind and their perspective about intelligence.
I think maybe the question wasn't that well framed, but the quote speaks for itself. He could ask whether he agrees with with the quote is on the RCMP letterhead. I mean, it's really not much further than that, I take it.
No, I actually withdraw the question, Mr. Fisher. I agree that he has no, he doesn't know why the RCMP made their observation. So I agree with that, and I withdraw it. And those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay. So now we'll go with first the convoy organizers.
The convoy
hope
organizers
repeated.
are ceding their time to Mr. Mackenzie's counsel, sir.
Okay. Government of Canada.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mackenzie. My name is Stephen Aylward. I'm one of the lawyers for the Government of Canada. Mr. Mackenzie, you described Diagolon as a grassroots community. Do I have that right?
No, I wouldn't say it's grassroots. It's sprang from my imagination, and I create the content from which the lore, amusement, entertainment, and so on attracts people to it, in which they will then either self-identify as a fan or not.
And you've described yourself as the de facto leader of Diagolon?
No, that's not correct. I've never described myself in that manner. That's been put forward into the media again by people at the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. Again, this is a figment of my imagination in a fictional world.
I see. So
Can't really lead a fictional world exactly.
the letter to the Senate that the Commission Counsel brought up earlier, you had described yourself as a de facto leader in quotes. I take it then you're saying that was being used ironically in that context.
Yes, I was trying to identify myself as the person in question that the Senate was debating about, and the House of Commons were talking about, which alarms me. And I was acting in the interest of protecting not only myself, but other people that identified as fans and followers of mine. And it was clear that this was an issue of national importance, and I felt obliged to say something about it rather than ignore it.
And you have no formal authority over anyone who's part of the Diagolon community, is that right?
That's correct. There's no hierarchy. There is no rank system, membership, code of conduct, uniforms, anything like this. It's a very informal. Again, I would pose it as if you're a fan of the Calgary Flames or Montreal Canadiens or not, or something. It's just as simple as saying you like it or you don't.
Okay. And you view yourself as somewhat of a calming presence within the Diagolon community?
No, I would view myself as the I guess, central figure from which the rest of it sort of orbits.
Okay, earlier you agreed with Commission Counsel that you had put out messages urging people in Ottawa not to use violence or to act unlawfully. You agree with that?
Correct. I do use my platform to try my best to again put forward messages and
that's
I guess responsible messaging. Yes.
And you were putting out those messages because you were concerned that some members of the Diagolon community would use violence or would act unlawfully.
What?
My concern was that something could happen outside of my control.
Fuck
and I
this fucking
would rather
bitch. Fuck you, bitch.
Say something on record.
You little
what I
fucking
would
bitch. Fuck you.
Expect people to behave lawfully and peacefully, so that if they follow me, listen to me, and they've heard that, and then chosen to act on their own and do something outside the desires of myself, and that's not really something I can control. I can't control what other people want to do, but I did want to make it clear that this was my intention, was a peaceful demonstration.
And you explained that there were other members of the Diagolon community with you in Ottawa at the time of the Freedom Convoy?
That's correct.
How many would you say?
There was a property that we were staying at outside the city limits that had been offered up by someone who was a fan. He had a vacant building, no furniture, but it's got a roof, it's got heat, so you could stay there. At times there were 3, 4, or 5 of us. Other times as many as 20.
And were there other people that you saw in Ottawa with Diagolon symbols who weren't part of that group?
I didn't personally observe any, one individual I did see that had a flag, but outside of that, I didn't see any symbolism of flags or patches or so on. I did encounter a number of people that recognized me and wanted to have a picture and talk and shake hands and so on.
Could we please call up ssm.nsc.can.6079 underscore rel.0001? Mr. McKenzie, are you aware of reports that members of the Plaid Army put out a YouTube video in which they expressed the hope that the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa would be the Canadian version of the January 6th riot in Capitol Hill?
I believe I know the clip that you're referring to, which is again
Wow.
taken out of context.
Guys,
of a much
this is the
larger,
government of Canada.
Presentation broadcast of which I was not
It's literally the government of Canada.
party to. Obviously, I can't speak to that person's intentions or what they meant by that, but I will reinforce that it was not my intention to see any kind of violence, political violence, or anything like that, because it again undermines the intentions and objectives of the protesters, which was to peacefully demonstrate their discontent.
Thank you. If we could actually pull up the next documents, a video, pb.can.401820 underscore rel.0001. And if we could start the video at the 55-second mark, please. Just while we're calling that up, you're aware that there was a deal that was struck between some of the protest organizers in Ottawa and the city of Ottawa?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
Council, if you just allow a brief indulgence, we're having a bit of difficulty locating.
Maybe I'll move on to the next topic and then I'll come back to that. In terms of the Coots incident that Mr. Mather was just discussing with you, were you aware that there were a number of individuals who traveled from Ottawa to, who were at the Freedom Convoy event in Ottawa who then traveled to Coots?
No, sir. No, sir.
And in particular, to clarify, I'm referring to individuals who were charged as part of that RCMP operation.
No, sir. No, sir.
Just a moment ago, when you were describing we were looking at a photo of some sort of body armor that had the diagolon symbol on it, and you were expressing some concerns about the authenticity of the diagolon symbol. Just to be clear, were you suggesting that the diagolon symbol had been planted there by law enforcement?
Again, at the time and still, I am skeptical of the RCMP in particularly, but law enforcement in Canada, there is a history of things like this taking place. It's not outside the realm of possibility that something like that is very easily replicated. Could be planted. I'm not suggesting that it certainly has or has not, but I would leave that open to possibility, yes.
I take it there's still some issue in pulling up that video?
Correct, Council.
Is it going to be a while, or should this be put off to a little later?
This may take a little while, Commissioner.
Okay. So maybe if you're agreeable, you can complete your examination subject to this video, and you can slot you in a little bit in maybe 10 minutes whenever this is sorted out.
Yes, that's fine. I did have one other video clip that I wanted to play. Is it possible to pull up a different video clip?
Sure, Counsel, I can assist if you have the doc ID.
Yes, okay, it's COM 50911, the video that was played earlier. And if we could just start that around the 30-second mark.
With that, thanks, from me to you in this palace that occupies a federal agent. When there isn't anything I want. I'll see you when I see you, and I'll upload what I can upload and do what I can do. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I hope you had a good time. I hope you feel about all you truckers out there, all you guys. Hold the fuck down. Nobody's going anywhere. You're not scaring anybody. You want to fucking dance? Let's dance. Force a tyrant to act like one. And did we succeed in that? And as promised, I want to play you this video. It's from my good dear friend Greg Arcade. You're a legend and a wonderful man. I love you, brother. Thank you so much for the work that you've done and continue to do for this country and your people. You're an underrated person, and in the words of the ferryman's toll,
And so earlier you mentioned that there were some videos in which you had urged people in Ottawa not to use violence, not to act unlawfully. Do you view your comments, you want to dance, let's dance, or hold, I believe it was hold the fuck down? Do you view those comments as in line with your earlier messaging?
Yo, what up, Senor Baffo? What's up? We'll do the pre-workout flex. Sure, why not?
Had no intention of relinquishing their right to peacefully demonstrate. It was clear at the time that the rumblings and things I'd been hearing and seeing, that it was the intention of the federal government to use force to dispel these people. So, as I said in the video, and I've been saying for a long time, is to force a tyrant to act like one, you simply refuse to bend to their will, and they will reveal themselves to be who they are. In this case, they deployed the RCMP and various police forces and beat people with batons and shot them with tear gas canisters and trampled an indigenous elderly woman with a horse. Another man was
I'm gonna fucking load up again. My vape again. Just fucking
to pay and endure for the Canadian people, to show them the true face of what it was they were standing against.
Thank you. Subject, if I might ask for just 2 minutes later to address that issue with the video.
I think it's now available.
Oh, it is.
So, Counsel, I believe it's been renumbered to POE.DOJ6014.
Okay,
It's an 8-minute long video, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
If we could start it at the 55-second mark, please.
I'm sure a lot of people have been seeing this. Randy Hillier has spoken about this already. Tomorrow, allegedly, there's some kind of deal being signed or agreed upon by, the quote-unquote truckers with the city, with the government, however, where they're going to move some vehicles and relocate and this kind of stuff. It's been expressed to me by people connected inside the movement there to the actual truckers, that this leadership cell of political operatives like Dichter and Dagny are not playing. They're not on side, guys. They haven't released a dime of the money at all. These guys are sitting out there, they're paying. They got $9,000 a month to making these payments on these trucks. And they're not getting paid. You know, they're missing mortgage payments now. And this deal tomorrow is fraudulent. A lot of the names that are attached to it, people, you know,
So I mentioned a deal earlier between protest organizers and the city. Does that refresh your memory about that issue?
Yeah, apologies a bit. I was unclear as to what you were referring to. It's something, I think there was some kind of negotiation was taking place to move some trucks from one place to another. I wasn't intimately involved. I don't know exactly the details of that, but to some extent, I'm not sure exactly.
Safe to say you were urging your followers not to go along with that deal.
I was expressing concern because at that time there was a number of names that had appeared that somehow had gotten into the leadership cadre or something, as you could describe, that I was very skeptical of their intentions, and I had some skepticism and fear that this was things were moving in a malicious direction.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, I think it's the Ottawa Coalition of Residents and Businesses.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. The Ottawa Coalition residents. Is this woman again? Is this woman? Not there's anything wrong with women. Oh, someone new.
Good afternoon, Mr. McKenzie. I'm not sure if you can see me.
Someone new.
My name is.
Oh no,
I'm a
this
lawyer
is the
for
fucking
Ottawa
champ.
Coalition of Residents
Fuck
and
you,
Businesses,
champ.
the people from downtown Ottawa. Just have a couple questions for you. You mentioned in your testimony about getting the screen captures of text, group texts from RCMP officers. You got that from a current RCMP member, is that right?
At the time it was delivered to me, I understood that to be the case. I can't speak to if this person is still employed or not.
Okay. And
Yeah,
do
dude,
you
it's insane.
occasionally have interactions?
She got a lawyer,
of
and
people who are
she
fans
got back
or
pay.
interested in what you say or supporters.
That's what I knew
who
was gonna
are
happen.
current,
Like that's why I
members
left
of
my
law
company because I went through that battle
Yes,
before.
that's correct.
I literally went through that
while you
battle
were in
with
Ottawa,
Stericycle.
were you,
I
during
didn't want to do it
the
again.
convoy
I couldn't. I
protest, were
wouldn't
you
do
in
it again. I
communication
was.
with some of these individuals who are
So I went to
current law
Miami, got
enforcement
licensed.
members and are
I
supporters
became a
of yours?
licensed man, and I skateboarded on the beach every day.
And have you ever been in contact with or anyone communicated to you who is a
I wouldn't
current
have
member of
respected
the
myself.
Canadian Security Intelligence Service who's a supporter of
Risk
you
losing a job like that.
or a fan of you?
They asked my vax
I've actually
status
made numerous overtures and offers to speak to the Canadian Security
in like
Intelligence Service
August,
to
and I told
try
them because I
to,
didn't think they were going to
shed
discriminate.
some light on
And then
myself
when I
and this community
asked them
that
about
seem
it,
so
they didn't say
concerned
jack
about. And
shit because
as
one of their
of
clients
today
is
is the first day that
Pfizer.
I've ever been asked a single question by anyone in any official capacity about it.
Stericycle's fucking cash cows, Apotex,
And you
Pfizer.
mentioned that you had 3 or 4 people, or sometimes as many
All
as
the
20
fucking-
people
all of them,
staying with
all of
you
them.
in the same location in Ottawa. Is that right?
All of them. All of them.
And
Johnson
those were up to
Johnson.
20 people who were supporters or fans. of yours?
Biomedieu, that's where I think
Yes, that's correct.
fucking
And some of these people were former members
Moderna,
of the
one of the,
military
I
or
think,
current members of the
came
military.
from that or was part of that shit. So fucked up how everyone just went, well, yeah, exactly, man, exactly.
Veterans
Just
Day.
like, exactly, man. It's just like you can't trust them. You can't.
List of refreshment members, but no
It's
one's
like-
jumping anything. I don't think so. I believe they're all civilians.
Like waste management.
Did any of them?
I don't know if you can hear me.
Did any of them
Waste
bring any
management.
firearms with them?
The head
No,
CEO
sir.
came out
Actually,
and said,
no,
"Well, I will
make
never
sure
discriminate
that
against
that
vaccine
was
status."
Very clear that would.
Stericycle
not be
didn't say
something
jack
I
shit.
would-
Fuck
I would,
that bullshit,
endorse,
man.
and it's not a good idea.
They didn't not say shit. They didn't say shit when I asked. When I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what's the future here?
Objectives of the protest.
They said I was. They were surprised.
Yeah, you were concerned about that, right? That
I was surprised. You're a
some
fucking
people in the
piece of shit.
protest might undermine the purpose of the protest by becoming violent. And you didn't
Fucking idiots.
want that
Whatever.
to
It's,
happen, correct?
life's better now.
That's correct.
And that's why you made that
Life is
message
better
out to
immediately
people
since I
to
quit like a
not
year
be
ago.
Violent, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Because you knew some of the people who
So
were there could be
relaxed.
volatile.
Life is so
and could be,
beautiful.
violent. Is that right?
I understand that in great numbers of people and tens of thousands of people, there is always going to be outliers of folks who, may be unhinged, they may be mentally ill, there could be any number of factors that may contribute to something, and I was just doing my best to mitigate any potential, any influence that I have to try to push things in a positive direction, rather than say nothing, or worse, contribute to something negative happening.
And when you were in Ottawa, did you have
Yeah,
contact
they
with,
basically
Mr. Randy
said if they're mandated from above, they're going to instate it.
Once, maybe
That's what they
twice.
did by
He didn't have much of a voice.
saying they're
but,
surprised and
feeling
shame and
whatever,
everything.
Yeah, I met him once or
Fuckers.
twice.
While you were in Ottawa?
Correct.
And
But it's fine. It's better. It's better.
when you got the information about the RCMP text, did you pass that on to anyone in the convoy?
I promise I'd stop ranting. I'm
leadership?
No, sir. I looked at it. I sat with it for about 10 minutes, and I just decided to publish it on my Telegram page for everyone to look at. And from there, it went to Counter Signal, Key and Bexty, Rebel News took it, various other independent journalists and so on took note of it. Notably, Legacy Media, CBC, and so on did not comment or provide any coverage or insight of that, but I simply just put it out there, and it went off on its own into the wild.
And you met with Mr. Hilliard. Did you meet with any other elected political officials while you were in Ottawa during the convoy protests?
No, sir. No, sir.
Either federally or provincially?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And you'd indicated in your testimony that you met Miss Tamara Leach this summer?
I spoke to her on the phone. I did see Tamara Leach briefly. She walked by me somewhere in a hotel lobby, but I hadn't any formal interaction, conversation, or anything with her until I spoke to her on the phone sometime in, I would say, August.
And the two of you, you were discussing, what was the topic you were discussing? The upcoming inquiry or other issues?
No, she had actually called to express concern and so on for my legal situation.
For your legal situation?
Yes, outside of this.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. McKenzie.
Okay, thank you. Next, the Ottawa Police Service.
Good afternoon, Mr. McKenzie. My name is Jessica Barrow, and I'm counsel for the Ottawa Police Service. Can you see and hear me all right?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Excellent. I'm going to start with something that you testified to earlier, and you indicated that in the lead up to the events in Ottawa, you were of the view that this was not going to be what you referred to as an in and out event. But just to be clear, you were not one of the organizers of this event, correct?
That's correct. I believe I may have been misconstrued as such, or perceived to be a bigger personality in this, simply because of my social media presence and a video that I had released basically reacting to the convergence of the trucks moving towards Ottawa. I was kind of excited by it and interested in what was going to happen. That video achieved a fair amount of traction and plays, so I think maybe people associated me with that for that reason. However, I had no time to have any contact with any organizers. I didn't ask for any money, take any money, give any money. I had no hand in logistics, planning, anything like that. I was simply there of my own volition to observe and just be there for the experience.
So you really had no knowledge as to the specific intentions of the organizers, except for whatever perhaps you were seeing online. Is that fair?
As far as the intentions were concerned, I was basically just collating the information that I could find in social media, what people were saying. I was aware of who some of the people were for that reason, and they were echoing the same, similar kind of sentiments. They were there to protest and show their discontent and exercise their rights to do so and so on. I didn't see anything disagreeable with that. I didn't see any intentions of, violence or so on.
Right, but with respect to your comment in terms of this not being an in and out event, are you aware that the organizers, or some of them, testified earlier this week that this event became much more significant than they had really anticipated?
No, I was not. I haven't been able to view much of or hear much of what's transpired earlier. It was apparent to me just simply because of the Canada's a very large country, and the effort required just to simply go to Ottawa from Alberta and British Columbia, in Halifax and so on, indicated to me, and the numbers of which people were going indicated to me that this was not going to be a quick trip to the city.
Are you aware that, similarly, that some of the organizers testified that they had not anticipated staying as long as they ultimately did?
No, I'm not.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the issue of social media. Obviously, we heard some testimony from you today about your particular use of social media. Would you agree with me that social media is a tool that some people use to influence the actions of others?
Yes, of course.
In fact, it's actually a career now, being a social media influencer.
Yes, some people make a living that way.
And it's a tool that's used to encourage people to buy things, or used for social advocacy?
Yes, I think it's empowered a lot of people to express their voice in the world and establish themselves as such. If they want to act similarly to the way that corporate broadcasting and larger companies and stuff do to push whatever products, ideas, and things that they want to, they can now compete with them in that same kind of space, I suppose.
So then I take it you would agree with me that social media has the power, both unintentionally and intentionally, to influence the actions of others.
I would say that anything that anyone is paying a large amount of attention to.
If you just hold on a moment, your counsel is standing up here.
I'm not sure social media can have an intent. I'm not sure the question is precise. I'm not sure how relevant it is in the circumstances. Perhaps social media users could have that kind of power, but my client, I don't think it's fair for him to testify about the power that social media has in terms of intent and lack of intent.
I was speaking specifically to social media influencers, but I'm happy to be more clear if that's required.
I think you have to be more clear. Social media is something we should be looking into, but
Sure.
you could try and rephrase the question.
Happy to. So to be clear, Mr. McKenzie, I'm speaking obviously specifically to the users that are using social media. And in terms of influencing others, my question was, would you agree with me that those using social media can both intentionally and unintentionally influence others?
Yes, of course. I would imagine that any form of media, whether it's social media, television, movies, music, and if they're inundated, especially in sort of a way that becomes a large focus of their day-to-day lives, then it would have an impact on the way that they view things, of course.
And you indicated earlier that depending on the platform and depending on the specific post, that anywhere between tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of people have followed you.
It's unclear. There's no real way to measure, but tens of thousands would probably be a fair assessment, yes.
I think you may have indicated that one of your YouTube videos may have garnered up to 500,000 views. Do I have that incorrect?
No, several of them have in the past, yes.
Okay. So I'm not going to take you to this specific document, but for the record, it's OPP 835, and it's a document published by the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, which I take from your earlier testimony you disagree with, but it describes Diagolon, also referred to as Plaid Army, as a conspiracy-based network that is increasingly evolving into a militia comprising neo-fascists who anticipate a violent revolution which they will seize power. I take it you disagree with that assessment.
It's like satire of country.
Is that fair?
It's like Pretoria.
Yes,
you
I disagree,
dumbass.
and I don't agree that this is my imagination is an organization of any kind. I'm not clear on what neo-fascist accelerationist means, and in my opinion, the Canadian Anti-Hate Network is not a credible news or information research source.
Fair
They
enough,
don't
but
understand
I take it you would
satire,
agree
man.
with
That's
me
why their
that at
jokes
least
suck. That's
some
why they
people
don't.
might
That's why they can't
interpret
make good
your messaging in
memes.
that
That's
way,
why their
because
jokes
obviously
suck.
the Canadian
Because they don't
Anti-Hate Network
understand satire. Because their life is fucking
Again,
satire.
Sure, I can't control how people interpret or don't interpret, any number of things. I can only control the things that I say and conduct myself the best that I can. And if it's interpreted the wrong way, then I'm happy to clarify. But I can't, again, be expected to control the interpretations of other people.
Fair enough. I'll just ask one more question because I believe I'm getting the signal that I'm out of time. But as a follow-up to that, there were a few veiled references to violence that we saw earlier council take you to, and you indicated in response to those that it certainly wasn't your intention to promote violence and that your followers would know that. Is that a fair assessment of your answer?
Yes, I think so.
But it's true that you have not obviously spoken to all of your followers, right?
Well, I don't exactly take attendance, so there's no way to know who is listening to me at any number of times. All I can do is use my platforms accordingly, and if it's listened to or not by individual people is not within my control.
And so you obviously couldn't know how they're interpreting your message.
No.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, next is the Ontario Provincial Police.
Oh, here we
Commissioner, I have no questions. Thank you.
Wow.
Okay,
OPP
next
has been
is,
based. OPP.
counsel for,
Shout out to OPP today.
former
They had
Chief
no
Sloan.
questions for anybody.
Also, no questions.
I still don't trust them motherfuckers, but
Okay, next is
it's all
the
they're doing right
Government of
now.
Alberta.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have no questions either.
Okay, the Democracy Fund, JCCF.
This is Antoine Dailly for the Citizens for Freedom. Our group would like to cede our time to counsel for the witness.
Oh, that seems to be a popular person, Mr. Foda. I guess it's your turn. They seem to have collected a lot of support.
I won't need all the time, Mr. Commissioner, but I'm happy to commence now.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Mackenzie. Can you see me?
Yes, sir.
This is the first time you've seen me actually on video.
That is correct.
I want to start off with just covering some of the questions that you were asked by the last council for the Ottawa Police Service.
Okay.
The Canada Anti-Hate Network. You were asked about sort of the information
No way, man.
that
You
they
can't,
put
man.
out there about you. Are you aware of the
crazy,
Canada
man. They're
Anti-Hate
fucking
Network
crazy,
has
dude.
itself spread any misinformation during the convoy?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the president or the chief, as I understand it, Mr. Farber, was on national television advising the nation of Canada that anti-Semitic flyers were being distributed throughout downtown Ottawa as a result of the nature of the people involved, when in fact that was a screen grab from an event
Right, it
in
goes-
Miami, Florida that had taken place weeks earlier.
City police. Okay, go like
Do you
city
know
police.
if,
Okay,
the
can't go
Canada
like so
Anti-Hate
high. Let's do like
Network's
eye to eye.
views
City
about you
police,
have been
like
relied
Ottawa
upon
police,
by
Montreal
law
police.
enforcement or other
Then
senior
you have the
officials in the federal
provincial
government?
police. Then you have the fucking
Yes,
federal
I
police.
have.
Then you have the
Through,
international
again, legal
police.
disclosure documents referenced
But then I'm
by,
saying
by
you
law
guys are shit,
enforcement,
just
open
like
source intelligence,
there's
and so on.
less
There are a number of
unity,
pages
right? That's
and
why they brought
articles
in
and
police from
things written
across the
by
country.
The Canadian Anti-Hate Network used as
February to do the
justification
arrests
for
and
their
beating up
assessment of
veterans
the-
and shit.
And have you ever had any communication with anyone from the Canada Anti-Hate Network?
I have actually. One of their journalists, Mr. Smith, I believe, reached out to me in just as late as February of this year. Previous to that, no one had ever approached me for a comment or explanation. They were content to just publish things, sometimes with no bylines whatsoever, written by ostensibly no one. I attempted to explain and kind of level, man to man with Mr. Smith about, who I am and so on. That didn't really go anywhere. I'd also been in contact informally, casually with Mr. Kurt Phillips over Twitter over the past several months before I was banned.
And did your conversations have anything to do about the convoy or your alleged extremist activities?
No, they were pretty casual in nature, just about kind of surface level things about other personalities and stuff, other maybe casual bits, sometimes different beers that we enjoyed, things like this.
You were asked questions about social media and social media influencers and their ability to either unintentionally or intentionally influence others. What are your views on legacy media being able to do that?
Well, again, yeah, with seeing the size of the platform that it has and the amount of funding that's being dumped into it from the Canadian taxpayer, it's one of the bigger microphones that exists, and it's my opinion that it has an extreme amount of bias and has been almost weaponized in that way to push state and government messaging, to influence and perhaps correct the way that people are thinking as it benefits the people that pay their bills.
I'd like to pull up POE.JMK701. It's an article from the Globe and Mail. Can you see this article on your screen, Mr. McKenzie?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with it?
No, I've never seen this before.
Okay, if we could scroll down a little bit and stop right there for a moment. Could you please read that, Mr. McKenzie, and tell us when you're done?
Yes, sir. You want me to read it aloud or just what? Sorry.
No, just to yourself. I'm going to just cover some of the content in that.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Okay, if we could go down a little bit further.
Okay.
And a little bit further.
Okay.
And then just a little bit further. So this was an article that was published around February 16th after the Emergencies Act was invoked by the government.
Okay.
And there are comments made by Public Safety Minister about that were later clarified by his spokesperson. Mr. Mendocino didn't name any organization during the news conference, but his spokesperson, Alexander Cohen, later said that the minister's remarks were in reference to Diagolon.
I see.
If we could go up just a little bit further to the comments that were actually made by Mr. Mendocino. Further up, please. Right there. So, quote, "It could have been deadly for citizens, protesters, and officers. We need to be clear-eyed about the seriousness of these incidents, and indeed, several of the individuals at Coots have strong ties to a far-right extreme organizations with leaders who are in Ottawa." How many members, how many of the individuals at Coots did you have any ties to?
Just the Mr. Lysak who I met twice.
And would you consider that to be strong ties?
No.
Would you consider this to be an example of misinformation or no?
Yes, I would.
I'd like to pull up some of the clips, sir, that Council have referenced, but that we've not actually gone over with you. If I could first ask that JMK 000, I think there's 7 zeros and 4. And this is a clip I understand from your social media dated January 23rd of this year, sir.
So as long as everybody just keeps their head, don't do anything stupid, say anything stupid, nothing illegal, don't even speed. Don't give them anything.
Where was that video taken, sir?
That video was filmed outside downtown the waterfront in Picton, Nova Scotia, where I live.
And what was your intent in putting out that video?
That was the day or 2 days prior to me heading down to Ottawa. I know a lot of people were on their way. They were excited to go and so on. It was my intent to try and set a tone of extreme levels of situational awareness and attentiveness to the fact that there would be a lot of scrutiny on everyone. And so it was imperative that people conduct themselves in a responsible and lawful manner.
If we could play another clip, please, 702, JMK 702. This is a clip I understand, Mr.
And
Sorry, if we could just go back to the beginning. Mr. Mackenzie, I understand this was taken on January 28th. If you could please just watch it.
Please be on your best behavior. And if you see anything odd or strange or makes you nervous or uncomfortable, leave. Leave immediately. And keep your phone, your camera is probably your best defense. If you see anything strange, film it.
Where was this video taken, sir?
That video appears to be taken in the
video taken,
residence
sir.
I mentioned earlier that we stayed at.
Fucking legend, man.
Outside the
This
city
guy's
of Ottawa.
Brown Jackie
message
guy's
you were
a
trying to convey?
fucking legend. Look at him at the front line.
I was just trying to keep people safe, and again, if they know, I obviously wouldn't want them to intervene into something that seemed, unsafe or dangerous. But if they could, I believe that as dangerous as they can be, the smartphones that people have can be their best defense. They can film, what's happening around them and protect themselves in that way. And if they were to encounter or see anything disturbing or frightening or alarming, then they should leave and get away from that, and then potentially even report it to authorities if necessary.
Speaking about reporting things to authorities, have you ever reported extremist behavior to authorities?
Yes.
Can you please tell us about that?
One example, let's see, would have been fall, I think, of 2021. There was a group online identifying themselves as Lynx something. It was armed men in the woods with masks. One of them specifically said, this is a call to arms, which, as I understand, is an illegal thing to do. It was very clear that they intended to, we're promoting the idea of arming people, arming citizens. I think it was an acronym for Liberate Your Neighborhood or something like that. And to engage the forces of the state in violent confrontation. They were commenting on my videos and inferring that they were trying to connect with me and so on. I found this very alarming, and again, putting potentially myself at risk, but other people that follow me and it could be exposed to this and ensnared in whatever was going on there. So once I became aware of the video, I immediately called the mounted police about it.
And did you receive a response?
I did. They called me back. They asked me, what I knew about it.
Look at that! Look at the! You could see the dude. I'm sorry for putting this brown jacket guy up, man, but we got look at him, bro. He's at the front fucking line, man.
Whatever took place after that, but
You didn't have follow-up after that?
I don't think so. I think there was one constable from Saskatchewan that may have called me to say they may have more questions in the future, but that was the end of that interaction.
Were you willing to have a continuous relationship with law enforcement to assist them in identifying legitimate threats to public safety?
Of course, if there was anything for me to give them or assist them in any way, I would have, yes.
I'd like to play another clip, JMK 701. And my understanding is that this is a clip from February 5th.
Support each other. Tell the truth. Be good. Don't do anything stupid, and don't give in to their attempts to goad you into anything they can use against you. Because this is literally all they have at this point. It's couple of sentences out of context on the internet, and an old man at a gas station. It's ridiculous, you know. Meanwhile, the high horse they stand on. Oh, we're so much better people. We're so much better people. We're morally superior, said the man in blackface.
Where were you when this video was taken, sir?
I believe I was traveling back to Ottawa from the Maritimes.
Okay. Can you please tell the commissioner sort of what your itinerary was during the convoy protests?
From beginning to end, or?
Yeah, my understanding is that you were not in Ottawa the entire time. Can you sort of just go over in general terms your itinerary?
So I left the Maritimes, again, a couple of days. I arrived 1 or 2 days before the trucks showed up. I picked up a couple of friends and associates. They wanted to go. It was kind of a carpool idea, so I would take them. We went down, met up with some people, stayed at the location I mentioned, and then after roughly 5 days or so, these gentlemen had to go home. I drove them home. I only intended to stay for that length of time, and then when I got home, I decided it was unclear how long this was going to go on, so I decided to go back a few days later. That's around that time when I made that video, and then I stayed in Ottawa, the Ottawa area, for the duration until probably 3 to 4 days after the invocation of the Emergency Act, and everyone was cleared out of downtown. Then my partner and I left and we headed back to the Maritimes.
When you were in Ottawa, did you engage in any illegal activity?
No.
Did you bring a vehicle?
Yes, I drove my personal vehicle. It's a pickup truck.
Where did you park?
Either on the farm where we were staying, or hotel parking lots that I would stay at, or if it was in the interest of going downtown to see the protest, I would park in parking lots and that were available as close as possible, and then walk the remaining couple of blocks.
Did you pay for parking?
Yes.
Did you assault anyone while you were in Ottawa?
No.
Threaten anyone while you were there?
No.
Did you engage in violent behavior?
No, sir.
Were you armed?
No.
Were you charged with any offenses in relation to your participation in the convoy in Ottawa?
No, sir.
Do you believe, or do you know whether or not your public political commentary has drawn the ire of officials?
That is my belief, yes.
Sir, you were asked questions about whether you had any, whether Diagolon had any structure. I think you were asked if you had any formal authority over anyone in the Diagolon community, and I believe you indicated that there was no hierarchy, or no formal structure.
Correct.
To be fair, you have a vice president.
Yes.
Could you tell the commissioner who your vice president is?
The vice president is of Diagolon, which is of my imagination. He is my sidekick that has evolved over the years. He's a demonic goat figurine named Philip with a very, very serious narcotics problem and time traveling ability.
Do you think any reasonable person who consumes your content either regularly or semi-regularly would actually consider Diagolon to be an organization?
I would think not, no.
How do you explain what is included in intelligence reports and what is expressed in national media and expressed by ministers of the highest level in our country?
It's my opinion that the foundational work by the Canadian Anti-Hate Network as pertains to targeting me as a previously government-funded, has enjoyed a fair amount of government funding, to target and smear people that they consider perhaps politically inconvenient, or people that just want to shut up. They regularly engage in defamatory statements, libelous action, things like this. Out of context statements, they'll take a clip here, a sentence there, and stitch it together and make it appear as something that it is not. From there, some media outlets, legacy media outlets, lazily, unfortunately it appears, took it at face value, copy, paste, print the story, then which is consumed by police officers, which, again, unfortunately, rather than doing any digging themselves or investigating or asking me a single question, take these things at face value and compile these reports, and up the network it goes until it lands on the desk of the public safety minister, or perhaps even the prime minister's office, where they're faced with these scenarios that have no basis in reality. I consider this entire situation entirely avoidable. None of this needed to happen, and it's absurd, and I consider it the single most embarrassing and grotesque intelligence failure in national history.
Mr. Mather, when he
so
first started
well
asking
said,
you
man.
questions, clarified that you're obviously testifying from in custody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And my understanding is you have no criminal record?
That's correct.
How do you intend on pleading to all of the charges that you face?
Not guilty.
Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you. Any re-examination?
No, Mr. Commissioner, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
These questions
for
are
your
so poorly.
testimony,
Like, what did they
Mr.
do? They
McKenzie,
expect the
and good
person to
luck with your
break
trial.
down because the final question is always so.
Okay,
It's always
next,
just like a wrap up of everything they've been
we're
like
going to
tiptoeing
take,
around,
the
and
afternoon
they're always like no.
And then we'll come back with
And it's like,
our final witness of
What
the
was your
day
plan?
and of
They
the
were
week.
gonna break down and they were gonna eat out of your palm, out of your hand.
The
No.
commission is in recess for 15 minutes. La commission en levée pour 15 minutes.
Like it's like must be some sort of weird psychological warfare. Like it's like a fucking 16-round fucking fight. You know what I mean? 12-round fight.
I feel like I'm in 1984.
Yeah, that was wild. Trying to, they were trying to make it seem like he was responsible for the things that his fans might do.
That was incredible, absolutely astonishing. It was surreal. Actually, it was surreal for him to be starting out explaining memes, and then to end up, this line of questioning. And truly, I don't know where they fished out these two government lawyers from. One of them a mouth breather, and the other one who looked like, Revenge of the Nerds. It was incredible. I don't know where they get these guys from. And so quick, so absolutely quick, to throw away everything that this country stands for, any kind of speech, free speech, or ability to think and live freely. Truly, it is disgraceful what they've done over here. And I just want to say a big hail to all you bigots out there. A big hail, bigots. Absolutely, and a big hail to Diagolon, all you Diagolonians. I think that's how you call yours. Ottawananians and Diagolonians. It is incredible, man, to see this. It just seems like a surreal exercise the last couple weeks. And what's the strangest part is it felt like he was on trial just now, right? Jeremy was on trial. It felt like they were putting him on trial. Was this his trial?
I think, I think they're obviously gathering, statements and quote evidence for future proceedings. I think that's we've kind of talked about it a little bit before. I think that's what this really is they're just getting information to use against people. is what they're doing.
That's right. Hail all you Diagolon bigots. Ghost says, hail bigots, crack open the spigots. That's right. I got a little mini keg. I'm going to crack that open tonight. It's and just the whole scene, even the way they put him in a room. You know, they didn't give him a proper mic. I mean, they didn't have any kind of meeting room or anything they could have given him. The angle of the video camera feed, everything designed to show you, the viewer at home, that if you speak out of turn or you say or do anything that the system does not like, you can and will be held accountable. You can and will be brought to their banana republic justice. You will be silenced, and you will lose everything and everyone that you love. That's what they're going to do to you. And Jeremy's in our prayers, as all of our political prisoners.
Let me tell you, Dick, bro, it's a lot.
Real patriots have been.
I feel a lot stronger
Seen,
in Canada now after the trucker,
CBSA officer thrown in jail as well.
Protests coming together.
Everybody having to make deals to get out.
October last year, I never envisioned.
Right, I will never go on social
I didn't
media,
envision
all
this.
kinds of gag orders, or simply, you know,
January, even the beginning of January, I saw like you guys were in lockdown again.
All kinds of crazy stipulations that you never.
Holy shit,
imagined, even
dude!
though the
January
court cases
2022.
haven't even been processed,
Holy
just
fuck!
stipulations to get bail.
That was
So
the
hopefully he will
fucking
be
dark times,
reunited
man.
with his lovely lady.
A lot of
Morgan,
planets
and
were
he'll be able to at least enjoy some
retrograde.
peace
Like
back home in the East
7
Coast.
planets were retrograde or some bullshit.
But,
That's when I lost my passport. When I got
yeah,
fired
that
from my
was-
fucking dream
those
job, University of
disasters.
Miami,
The
because we
woman,
wear a goddamn
specifically the
mask.
woman
And the next week,
can't
they lifted
remember her
mask
name, but
requirements,
she
and I asked
is
them, "Hey, can I come back?" And they said no.
Jennifer Barrow, that's her. Jessica
Bunch of fucking
Barrow,
stupid
this one,
assholes.
Ottawa Police Service lawyer. That's her. I don't know how I remember. all
They're
this
not
stuff. It's in
scientists.
my mind. Here, I'm going to show you who I'm talking about, so you can see. This is the one. This lady.
And they're
that's how she
assholes.
looks like in real life, or on Zoom. That's just how she looks like in one of these pictures. But that woman specifically, the line of questioning. So you would agree then that you have the power to influence people for ill? How many people follow you?
We're gonna
across
start.
all
We're
your
gonna start.
social
He's
media
watching. We're gonna
accounts?
start.
Aha. And you agree then that your job, your role, is to influence people to do crimes? But it's unbelievable. How do you even answer these questions? And is there no personal responsibility anymore? And that kind of leads into the next thing. It's that they believe that we are automatons, that we are easily influenced by their propaganda. They believe that we are all sheep and we will follow. So then that's what scares them, is that people are getting, when they say they're getting, that the mass, the population, which is their opponents, because truly they are their lords and masters, and we are all the peasants, and we have escaped their programming, and that's the problem. That's the real problem, and that's what C11 hopes to eradicate, that problem. What do you think, Pan, as an American, brother?
Yeah, no, this is scary. This is absolutely the erosion of your free speech, you know, absolutely. And the fact that the government can set up something like this where they're supposed to be looking into, you know, the justification for the Emergencies Act and actually use it for their own nefarious, you know, information digging that they're going to use against these people down the line in subsequent court cases. It's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. As somebody, I mean, yourself, because this is kind of close to home, because these guys, Diagolon, they're very much into memes. You know, war campaign, we used to do a lot of that stuff back in the last couple of years. Not so much these days, but that's why we still have that, you know, the speed of memeing. That's a skill, that's sort of a muscle memory, it's like riding a bike. And a big hail to Johnny in the chat. He was turning out those memes very fast. I got a question for you, Pan. I mean, you had a court case against you for memes, right?
Yeah, criminal court case. Yeah. For those that don't know, there was a guy who was turned out to be a local politician and a comic book nerd. He didn't like who we were promoting on our YouTube channel back when we were promoting all sorts of independent comics people. And he didn't like the influence that War Campaign had in the movement. And he said, well, you know, one of the best ways to, you know, take their influence would be getting Pan thrown in jail. So him and these people came up with this crazy
Dude,
plot. Long story short,
let me
I paid a
fucking.
fine for
I don't want.
littering.
I have it up so loud 'cause I'm trying to avoid the echo, but let me
Nothing
fucking.
more.
This chat made a really good point that it never passed the Senate. You know what I mean? The Senate never passed it. The Senate didn't sign it into law. So I think they redacted it before the Senate decision. But it's so hard to remember. It's just all memory pills. You know what I mean? Right, like the Senate, because it was going to go up for vote in the Senate, and then after like a week or after they cleared everyone, they retracted it, and then there was never, and then it was never, because they, what do they call it? They called it redundant, not redundant. Yeah, redundant, because they had already disassembled. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. It's corruption. Like bunch of, and then like all like the lawsuits, Maxime Bernier's fucking follow-up lawsuit. That's why they denied it, because the reason why Maxime Bernier implemented that lawsuit was because he wanted to get a legal response from the government of Canada. But they said we're not going to provide it because it's a moot, because it's already accomplished, it's already been resolved. A bunch of motherfuckers. So yeah, this the Senate never passed it. It was never law. And one of the witnesses, they said that and everyone was like, "Oh shit, we completely forgot about that," which is true. We never passed Senate, just like in the United States. We saw in the United States in December, Joe Manchin, John Cocker, the fucking basis fuck Manchin, the fucking Democrat. He fucking voted again. Fucking Democrats, go fuck yourselves, you Senator Democrat piece of shit motherfucker, pussy ass follower bitches. 50, it's 50-50 split, right? 50 voted for discrimination. People getting fucking fired, motherfuckers. And 2, Joe Manchin and John Cocker voted against it. And we're like, this is insane. Literally saved America. And then the Supreme Court fucking said, it's all bullshit, it's thrown out. What got me on this rant?
We're seeing that again. And of course, why Jeremy specifically? Why come after him? Because he obviously has influence and people are unhappy, and he's a focal point, he's a locus for people's dissatisfaction.
Oh no,
with the
dude.
status quo.
I think so, man.
And he's obviously
I think he's gonna win another term,
especially,
man.
like he was mentioning, I wasn't aware because
I don't know, man.
haven't followed what he's done for years.
Maybe.
So, that Porto Peak shooting stuff, that
Poilievre could win. The Conservatives could win.
that attracted a lot of attention.
But he's such a fucking piece of
This
shit.
anti-hate,
Poilievre is such a
we've heard
slime
many
ball.
people now talking about anti-hate. They seem to be. We know.
I don't trust Poilievre with the Conservatives at all.
It is. This is the reason that I hate to
At
say
all.
it, but I'm going to use my brown privilege at all times.
Because again, as
Now, will it
we said
save
before,
me?
we vote not.
I don't know, but I'm.
Who's
I'm
gonna
gonna
win? We
try.
vote
I'm gonna try.
to have
I'm
a
gonna
piece
use
of
that
paper
brown
that said, "Hey,
privilege,
government,
because
this is
if I
what I'm
was
going
white
to do.
and I say-
If
I'm
you're going to
just saying,
challenge
if I
me,
was white and I say the opinion
it's on."
that I have about immigration,
Because I
about
provided, I gave you notice
basically
of what I'm going to do
then they would
in this
call
vote.
me a white
Not to
supremacist.
win,
It's just a
but
lot
just to say
harder
this is
in
what
the
I'm going to
society
do
we
in my
live
life.
So I believe you got to use it.
So you gotta vote.
You gotta
Got to
use
go
the
with
privilege you
PPC,
have.
man.
It's too bad there's no such thing as white privilege. I'm sorry to tell
Got
you.
it, man.
That's like Santa Claus. But I'm going to use my brown privilege. That's just what it
Literally
is.
just to have legal protection.
I have to.
Because even Maxime Bernier, you see Maxime
It
Bernier,
is
he's doing all the
absolutely
legal
very
stuff
bad
now,
to
but
let
they're
in
not
so
providing
many
him
refugees. They are
court
destroying
case.
this country.
They're not providing him anything that he could use in the future, the fucker.
Yeah.
Because he knows the law. And I know the law. That's why I vote for him. Because it's not for the win.
Next.
It's to tell, to be like, hey, government, here's some future notice. All lawyers in this are asking, hey, didn't you get notice from the government that that you had to leave, that you had to go, all the flyers, they not notice in the news, all the announcements, megaphones, all the friends, your emails, right? It's all about just like notice. So if you fucking tell the government, this is what the fuck I'm gonna do,
Truly, a lot of
you have total legal rightness, right? In life. In life, you gotta do it in life. Only a few days, yeah, man.
And that's
On a full moon lunar eclipse, bro. That's such the scenario for them to steal the election, bro. Not even,
anything
like,
contrary to their narrative. It's
I'm not even trying to fucking be like a Conspiracy theorists, like a full moon lunar eclipse. That means the entire moon is going to be eclipsed in the middle of the night. It's a perfect scenario for either them uncovering election fraud or election fraud will happen successfully. Yeah, dude, you're doing the Fetterman Oz, eh? What do you think about Oz saying, I was thinking more about Oz. Gotta do what I can. Keep freaky Fetterman office. Don't. Yeah. No. Yeah, no one likes Oz. Oh, for sure. No, it's bullshit, bro. And what's going on in Philadelphia and fucking... You don't want fucking Pennsylvania turned into fucking Ohio, you know what I mean? You gotta fucking... Or even Maryland. You don't want to become the next Baltimore. You don't want Philly to be the next Baltimore. You don't want that to happen. I'm not saying it's happening. But you can't, like, if you go Democrat, it might. Mehmet Oz. Yeah, he's Turk, bro. He's Turkish, man. Yeah, dude. Well, it's just the policies, right? I was thinking more about what Dr. Oz was saying about that he's going to follow the state government law, and yes, it's very inhumane, and yes, it's very scary, especially since he's a Republican. I'm totally pro legal abortion, right? But I think he's saying that to be like, hey, I can't, I only have so much ability, and that's the fucking hard thing to, like, as a man, I don't even know that yet, to be like, this is insanely wrong, but I don't have the ability to change it, even though I want to change it, you know? It's like, if you actually think about it, like, sir, if you enter office, what will you do on abortion? It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to change the law, I'm going to change everything, which he should. It should be cemented, right? But, like, in terms of legal, but you can't. You'd be like, what the fuck? Like, I'm just gonna come and change the law. I'm gonna, like, motion towards it. I'm gonna submit bills. I'm gonna write bills. He could have said that. Just be like, hey, I'm gonna write a bill. Maybe they'll vote it in. But he doesn't because he's an idiot. He's not a politician. He's just a fucking grifter.
I'm gonna put a caveat. I might be incorrect.
I think I did see people confirming that for you earlier in the chat, but yeah, confirm.
Okay, let me know. Let me know if that's the case. You tell me. Let me see here. Ginger Shapes is anonymous. That's it. Cheryl Rosema says you're not the Indian face of white supremacy. No, I think I am. I think that's what I am.
A what? An
Order
Indian white
allowed?
supremacist? How does that even work?
Roman, he says
The
not
commission is reconvened. La commission reprend.
He says not JTF2. He was an RCMP sniper and personal guard for Prime Minister. There you go.
Sniper.
Thank you, Commissioner. Jeffrey Leon, co-lead counsel for the commission. The next witness is Daniel Bulford.
Go ahead.
Mr. Bulford, will you swear on a religious document or do you wish to affirm?
On the Bible, please.
For the record, please state your full name and spell it out.
Daniel Joseph Bulford. B-U-L-F-O-R-D.
Oh, dude, he's way more
Do you
serious
swear
than
that
he's
the
been in
evidence to
other
be given
videos,
by you
let
to
me
this
tell you.
commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do so swear.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bulford. Clerk, could you please put up HRF 401553? You recognize this as a statement that you prepared for the commission?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, we will put that in evidence, and if you ever need to refer to the statement while I'm asking you questions, you'll let me know, okay?
Yes, sir.
You can take that down now. I understand that you were born in Saskatchewan and resided in northern Alberta for several years.
Yes, that's correct. And is it necessary that council speaks to the protection?
He's already given that
okay, thank you.
protection, but he may want to do it again.
Sir, that's protection's already been marked as an exhibit. You're listed in the
Okay.
invocation.
Thank you.
Simply for the record, I'll refer to the statement that's in the record and the fact that you are under subpoena from the commission, and as a result, it will be deemed that you've objected to each answer to seek the protection of the relevant Evidence Act. Okay?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you for that reminder. Now, I understand that you spent 15 years in the RCMP?
That's correct.
And tell us briefly your career in the RCMP.
I joined the RCMP in August of 2006. I graduated from the Depot Training Academy January 2007. I was posted to Whitehorse, Yukon as a general duty constable for roughly 4 years. In December 2010, I transferred to Mayo, Yukon, a smaller, more remote community 4 hours north of Whitehorse. I was posted there for roughly 2.5 years. And then I transferred to Ottawa, where for the remainder of my career, I was a full-time sniper observer on the National Division Emergency Response Team.
You resigned from the RCMP in December 2021?
That's correct.
And why did you do that?
I spoke out publicly against the federal government vaccination mandate for COVID-19 vaccines. And after speaking out publicly, my security clearance was revoked. And I knew that I would be subject to disciplinary action. And after I reviewed what my options were in regards to that, I discovered that if I was terminated for misconduct, which I suspected would be the case, I could potentially lose roughly half of my pension transfer value. So I made the decision to resign out of fear that I would not be able to set my family up adequately financially in the future.
Thank you. And beyond that, have the COVID-19 public health measures affected you or your family?
Yes, sir, very much.
Can you say briefly why?
Well, the obvious beginning is that I felt it necessary to leave my 15-year career, which I was provided 15 dedicated years of service to the Mounted Police. I was not a complainer. I worked hard. I was passionate about my craft. I think I had a reputation of being a hardworking professional. Then beyond that, my wife and I were no longer permitted access to public spaces that we as tax-paying Canadians were helping fund. And that prevented us from being involved in our children's activities, such as minor hockey, which we were both heavily involved in for a number of years, roughly 6 years. We couldn't travel to see our family in northern Alberta, which, living in the second largest landmass country in the world, was problematic. So it's roughly 40 hours of drive time. And we lost neighbors and friends who were perfectly fine to have relationships with us until the vaccine passport deadline kicked in. And then we were no longer worthy to speak to. And beyond that, there was a very heightened state of anxiety about how much further the situation in Canada would degenerate. And what I mean by that is that the dehumanization effort had begun. And that was I believe that was in August of 2021, when the Prime Minister had initially announced the impending federal vaccination mandate, and then he was campaigning into September for his snap election. And he was making comments regarding...
Okay, sir, we only have an hour, so
Okay.
Can we, I think the commissioner understands what you're saying.
The ultimate problem was that the Canadian population was led to believe that people like myself and my family were a threat to other people and their children, which was not true, by his own admission in July of 2021 on camera.
And you're a member of an organization, Mounties for Freedom, that opposes public health measures and specifically COVID-19 vaccine?
That's correct.
And also Police Stand on Guard for Thee, which are police officers, active and retired, whose stated mission includes to repair and regain public trust being damaged or lost due to the enforcement measures of due to the enforcement emergency measures, right?
That's correct.
And then you're also on the advisory board of Taking Back Our Freedoms.
That's correct.
We've heard Taking Back Our Freedoms about that organization in previous evidence. I take it was founded to push back against COVID-19 vaccine mandates?
I would say that's accurate, but in general, the COVID measures that were resulting in a segregation of our society. So not just the mandate, but the passport as well.
And its mission has expanded to focus on rejuvenating Canada's democracy and institutions, correct?
That's correct.
Now, when did you first learn of the Freedom Convoy?
At least 1 week prior to its arrival in Ottawa. Probably before that, saw circulating videos on social media about its growing size and travel across Canada.
And did somebody contact you to become involved with the convoy when it arrived in Ottawa?
So initially, I was supposed to work in a volunteer security capacity for a number of the doctors that were speaking out against the COVID-19 health measures and vaccinations because they had received a number of threats. So myself and a number of other individuals with similar training in close protection were going to be providing a volunteer security service to them.
And who asked you to do that?
That was through Taking Back Our Freedoms.
And was there somebody specific that asked you?
George Bears.
Thank you. And I take it that before the convoy arrived, you were asked to take on an expanded role. is that right?
Yes. So I believe it was the night of January 25th. I was called by a personal friend asking for help with volunteer security for Adopt a Trucker. So I met with the Adopt a Trucker volunteers the following morning. With Mr. Chris Guerra was there. That was the first time I'd ever encountered him. And based on what I saw from this small group of volunteers that had very little time to prepare for this major event that was about to land in Ottawa, I felt that I could be better put to use in assisting them, and I could pass off the doctor security role to others.
And you became in charge of VIP security?
No, so that was the role that I passed off to others.
Did you have a title in this new position?
The title would be volunteer security coordinator, and then I ended up becoming a police liaison as well.
And when did you start? Do you recall the date?
That day, January 26th.
Okay. And were you told how many vehicles were going to arrive in the convoy?
No, I was not. You're getting varied numbers from circulating social media, anywhere between 10,000 vehicles upwards of 50,000 vehicles. I had no idea of an accurate number.
And how long did you understand that the convoy would be staying in Ottawa?
At that time, my understanding was that the convoy intended to come to Ottawa and stay until mandates were lifted.
And you mentioned that you became a police liaison.
Well said. That's exactly.
Did you have
that's exactly
communications with the Ontario Police Service? The Ottawa Police Service?
Yes, I had communication regularly with the Ottawa Police Service, the Parliamentary Police Protective Service, the OPP, and the RCMP.
And just generally, what function did you perform in liaising with those police forces?
Well, there was a tremendous amount of information coming in to me on any given day. And so what I viewed my primary function, what I spent the majority of my time doing, was triaging information that could have been any type of threat to public safety, anything that I felt had any kind of credibility or something that was beyond my scope to verify. I would forward that to the police, all of the different police liaisons I was connecting with.
And I understand you were working out of the Swiss Hotel where there was an operation and logistical support center?
That's correct.
And you formed an incident command using that model?
Yeah, that's correct. So there was a number of us volunteers that had worked in first responder type jobs, police, paramedic, a lot of firefighters from outside of the city of Ottawa. And what we did was we tried to establish an incident command system, like a network and a model, an incident command model, so that it was easily identifiable who was responsible for what, so that it would make our communication more efficient and just to overall streamline our day-to-day operations.
And one of the other individuals working with you was Vincent Gyges. Got that right?
Yes, Vincent, he came to the Swiss hotel very early on, and we connected. And what eventually happened, my apologies, he came to the Swiss. He was there for the first weekend, maybe? Not a very long period of time. He returned home, and then he came back to Ottawa, at which time, when he asked me what he could do, I asked him if he could go over to the Arc Hotel and support them.
Thank you. And then, who was the first police person that you communicated with?
Constable Isabel Sear Pidcock of the Ottawa Police Service.
And did you call her, or did she call you?
I called her on the 26th.
And could you tell us about that conversation?
Yeah, I contacted her. I gave a brief description of who I was and what I was going to be doing in support of the convoy. Mr. Guerra had advised me that he had already been in communication with her, and that we were expecting a map package from the Ottawa City Police as to where the trucks were supposed to enter into the city and where they were supposed to park and stage.
And did she tell you anything else, let's say, about emergency vehicle lanes?
We may have discussed that on the phone call, but it was definitely, there was specific instructions delivered in the map package that she did end up sending me on the 27th of January.
And so could you put up, please, HRF 00001313? If you could go to the next page, please. Is this the map package she sent you?
Yes, I believe so.
And we see it says under Ottawa Truck Convoy, take direction from police whenever applicable, leave open space for emergency vehicle access at all times, no closed trailers permitted on Wellington near Parliament Hill. All staging areas must be kept an adjacent emergency access lane and emergency routes that are listed there, no convoy access at any time. Correct?
Correct.
And did you communicate those instructions to anyone?
Yes, I emailed this map package to Tamara Leach with the understanding that they would be receiving a briefing in Arnprior the night before entering the city.
And how did you know to email them to Ms. Leach?
Well, Ms. Leach had contacted me prior to the convoy arriving in Ottawa, not in regards to this, but for support with monitoring and responding to social media, which I said that I agreed that the Mounties for Freedom could help her with. And so I forwarded her contact information off to, we had a social media committee at the time. And then, so I was already aware that she was, like, I would describe her as the face of the convoy. And so that's who I communicated the map package to.
Thank you. And if you can just scroll to the next page, please. This is one of the maps. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 maps, if you can scroll up. And again, what were those maps of? What was that telling you?
These are the entrance routes for the various convoys that were approaching from different directions, and where they would be directed to enter the city and where to park.
And if we can go to the next page, please. This is from Constable Sarah Piddock, and it says routes to staging areas. And what did you understand that to mean?
Exactly what it says.
And so you knew that you understood there would be certain staging areas?
I did.
And if you can go to the last page, or sorry, the next page over. Sorry, one, yeah, there. There are certain instructions there, including no parking on Elgin Street from Wellington to Highway 417, and so forth. And all of that, you say you passed on to Ms. Leach?
Yes.
What police force was Constable Sear with?
Ottawa Police Service.
And where were you when the convoy started to arrive?
I was in the Swiss Hotel.
Now, we've heard evidence that from time to time, some emergency lanes were blocked, either on a short-term basis or, for example, on Kent Street, on a long-term basis. What observations did you make about emergency?
I did see when I would do let's refer to it as a perimeter walk, that the only place that I ever observed that the emergency lanes were blocked was for roughly, I would estimate 2, maybe 3 blocks north and south on Kent Street.
And that was it?
That's all I recall.
Okay, and then
I apologize. Perhaps at Rideau and Sussex as well.
Okay, we'll come to Rideau and Sussex. If you can turn up, please, Mr. Clerk, pb.nsc.can.401367. And go. And if you can go to page 10, please. A little further up. Sorry, can we try page 11? Oh, no, excuse me for one second. Let me just ask you the question. Did you have a further conversation with members of police forces on January 28th?
As referenced in this document?
Yes, let me just turn it up for you. It's excuse me one moment. All right, it's page 11 at the bottom. See, it refers to you, that you're organizing the volunteer security for the group warroomcanada.net. What was that?
That was the initial website domain that Mr. Guerra was operating Adopt a Trucker through.
And it says, on Friday, January 28, 2022, you reached out to points of contact within the RCMP, OPP, and the NCRCC, seeking information obtained via open source on the demonstration. Do you remember that?
Yes, I don't recall reaching out to the OPP that early. I could be mistaken, but I definitely reached out to Ottawa Police Service, PPS, and the RCMP. And when it references the NCRCC, that's a command center that was at my old building of work.
Yes.
And so the specific person I reached out to from the RCMP, I believed to be working out of that location.
And do you remember who that was?
Constable Chris Angel.
And do you remember who you reached out to in the PPS?
Constable Emily Gosselin.
And did you reach out again to Constable Cyr Pigot?
Yes, I believe so. And perhaps by that time I already had learned of Constable Paul Askin from the Ottawa Police Service as well.
And if we go back to the document, it says, in his email, Bulford noted the single largest concern of everyone involved is that outside influences will attempt to instigate an action that will damage the credibility of the official convoy group and supporters. Why was that your main concern?
Well, I've worked many of these large events in the NCR over my career, and consistently the biggest concern from a protective policing standpoint was always the potential for a lone wolf or a small group when you have a large crowd of people coming together, like a similar event like a Canada Day or a Remembrance Day. That was one of our primary function from my old unit, was to be in positions where we could observe anything of a suspicious nature that could potentially become a lone actor or small group attack.
And I understand that you reached out to, on January 29th, to Sergeant Front of the OPS. Recall that?
Sergeant Frost?
I believe it was Front, or is the name Cross?
The OPS, Ottawa Police Sergeant?
Yes.
That was a man by the name of Sergeant Pat Frost.
Frost, I'm sorry, it's a typo. And what did you discuss with him?
So that would have been very early in the morning. I received a call from some of the truckers down at the intersection of Booth and Sir John A. Macdonald Parkway. They were frustrated that they had been blocked from continuing further up onto Wellington, like up towards the Supreme Court. And so I went down just to see what would be possible. And while I was there, I ended up speaking with two of the young officers. One of the officers was a younger man. And I spoke to those officers asking if it would be possible to have some of the trucks that were extended along Sir John A. Macdonald Parkway to condense closer to the, I'd call it the main body of the convoy parked on Wellington at Parliament, and because there was a large gap. If I recall correctly, there was a large gap kind of around the Supreme Court of Canada all the way down the hillside of Wellington, and then extending west to the Booth and S-Jam. And so those officers got me into contact with Sergeant Pat Frost. And so I met with him at the Ottawa Police Headquarters, and we drove around downtown Ottawa together, and he relayed to me that he had managed a large tractor protest in the city of Ottawa before. And so we were touring around the downtown core, trying to determine what potential locations trucks could be brought in closer to Parliament. and you know, establishing what was a hard no-go, you know, like such as primary bus routes and emergency lanes.
And what were your general observations of the protest during the first weekend?
Well, I didn't get out of the Swiss hotel very much those first initial days, but when I finally did, it was the largest event I've ever observed in downtown Ottawa in my time here.
And what about the conduct of the participants?